God dang. I'm just taking a walk to the road. We're live. So, hello everyone. Welcome to a brand new stream. I'm a bit quiet than usual. I don't know why. I just am. Oh yeah, and I currently have COVID. Yay, my favourite. Yeah, I have COVID again, which is not very fun. Yeah, I kind of explained this yesterday in the community post thing, whatever it's called. Where it has got 500 hours of watch time. What does that mean? The analytics. Damn. Well, 504 watch time hours. Damn. So people watch my videos for like 500 hours. Damn, that's actually crazy. I'm surprised people even do watch 1 hour, to be fair. But yeah. Right, get back to the main source at hand. So 1 point. Okay, so I just got 25,000 views on YouTube, I think. Let me just check. If that is the case, then that's a bit crazy, I'm not gonna lie. And then we'll actually get into the main thing of this stream. 23k people watch this channel. Jesus Christ. Right, let's turn this down. But yeah, today we are doing a live stream, but we're doing a Mr. Nightmare stream. That's why it's called Throwback stream. I have COVID, so there's only a matter of things I could actually do right now, so I just thought, why not just go watch some old Mr. Nightmare videos. Well, kind of old, because the last video I did on him was 6th of November 2021, so that was like 3 months ago. So yeah. I should have the okay, never mind. So yeah, so pretty much what's the word? Yeah, I've not done it in about 3 months, pretty much, if you want to like an analytical side of things. Yeah, the last video, well, I did it with Sonic last time. The last time I did anything on Mr. Nightmare related. Obviously, I have watched his recent videos and stuff, but not on stream, obviously, because obviously, you know, reasons. So, yeah. So today's stream is just to go back and, you know, watch some more videos. Because I have COVID and I have nothing really else to do with my life right now. So, yeah, I would have just watched these videos anyway. So I just thought, I was watching these videos anyway. So I just thought, why not do it on stream? Full process. Yeah, and I'll try and do more videos on like weekends. I'll try anyway. Because obviously I still have COVID. Well, I got it last Sunday. And yeah, I've just not been, well, I've been fine. Obviously I'm doing this now, so I'm obviously fine. So, but I just have this, like, not a cough, but I have to clear my throat every so often. So, yeah, that's the main issue we're dealing with right now. But I have been recording a lot of Epic World recently as well. Like, I've recorded all of March's Epic World episodes. And I think that's a bit over the top. Because I literally just recorded all of March's episodes. Me, Andrew, and the helpers. Oh, God. I just got a text from Rogers, right? Which is... sorry about this, everyone. Oops. Hold on. Okay, sorry about that, everyone. Okay, we're good. Sorry about that, everyone. My phone just froze because of Rogers texting me, ruined everything. I'm joking. So, yeah, I'm not starting it just yet. I just want to make sure the camera's right. And Andrew just texted me he's going to join the stream now. Like, he's just going to watch it for a bit. So, okay, boom. So, yeah. Because obviously, I'm doing this at 12:30 in the afternoon. So, my friend Andrew's and that was on their break, so yeah, no. So I just wait for them to join. But first, I'll just pop his head in and say hello to the lovely me, I guess. I don't know. I'm trying to turn the quality. Why is it not letting me turn the quality up? I'm not playing these games. Because I have the stream playing, so I make sure nothing happens. Yo, Rogers, welcome to stream. Yo, Rogers. Wait, I'm trying to. Why am I? No, it's not letting me turn the quality up. I'm not playing your games. Okay, never mind then. So yeah, I'm trying to be a bit quieter for a bit. Like because I don't want to go too loud, or else my throat goes. Bleh. I'm fine. Just in case you were wondering. Well, I've already mentioned it. I'm fine, but yeah. So today I just thought, why not go back and watch Mr. Nightmare videos? Because why the hell not? And I do understand that nobody's going to be watching this straight away, right? They're going to end up watching this on VOD when this is uploaded. Oh, well, obviously because I'm recording to 2:30 in the afternoon. I meant 12:30 in the afternoon, so yeah, nobody's going to be watching this apart from Rogers just now. But obviously he's on his lunch, so by like 1 o'clock he's going to be gone. So yeah. So I can understand there's nobody going to be watching this, and I don't really care. I kind of predicted that nobody was going to be watching this beforehand. But I wanted to do the stream because I have nothing to do. I have literally nothing to do. Because obviously, as I said earlier, I've been recording March's Epic Growth videos. All of them are done and ready to go, but obviously, I have to wait until March. Duh. But so I just have to. I'm just waiting until March for these episodes to come out. But we got good things coming up in March. Do not really. We've got good things coming up. I'm not going to tell you what because obviously there'll be no point in watching the damn episodes. But yeah. And I don't really want to start doing April's Epic War videos, like, because I kind of done these ahead recently, so, you know. But I probably will do April's Epic War videos at some point, probably March, I don't really know. I don't know why I'm saying this, because you won't even see the episode until April, but never mind. But, yeah, I just want to get this out of the way first, that, you know, what was I going to say? What was I going to say? God damn. Yeah, I had nothing to do, and I just thought, why not do a throwback stream? Because obviously last year these were pretty much like the main videos you could find on my channel at the time. So, and these were the videos that did well. Well, the streams that did well, and plus all the only streams I've probably ever done with other people, like in this format, like with my phone. You could see my beautiful face. Well, kind of. Well, you know. You see me just talking to you, not as a character or anything or epic or related, just talking to you like if I was talking to Andrew or Ryan or whatever. But yeah, just why not? Because I could have done this on PC, but I just thought, because it says throwback streaming, this is how I used to do these streams. If you've not been watching me for very long, so yeah, he's released quite a few videos. Mr. Nightmare has over the past 3 months. So he's released I'm just turning these around. Instagram, photos with creepy backgrounds, scary field trip stories, emails, thingy, unsolved mysteries, Christmas. All of these. I think we got to the trick or treating ones. No, I think we got to the unexplainable phone calls. So we got quite a few videos to get through today. But yeah, I just want to say before we get into this, I'm actually going to be streaming a bit longer today than I would usually do, because recently I've kind of got the impression that, well, I don't really need to get the impression, you could see it in the stream lengths. My recent streams have only been like an hour long, well, honestly, because I'm doing them on school nights, so I don't really have any option with that, but for this, I don't really have a time limit. I could just go for as long as I want, so this will be over an hour, that's all I have to say. I don't know how long it will be specifically, but, you know, you'll find out, like, if you're watching this on VOD, which is pretty much like 95% of everyone is, well, nobody's going to be watching this on second stream, because people have better stuff to do with their lives. Probably we find school more interested in half of these streams, but never mind. Oh yeah, I need to edit the. Oh crap! I didn't mean to exhale that. Oops. Right, so I'm gonna turn this up a bit. Hopefully, I don't get yelled at for having this too loud. But I hope I don't get jump kicked. Right. I need to edit the description because I need that all credits go to Mr. Nama stuff because I don't want this stuff to happen. All credits. I would do this beforehand, but it's just easy doing. There you go. So yeah, the first one we'll be reacting to is 4 disturbing into Instagram horror stories because he's done quite a few of these over the years, but yeah, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna shut up now because we spent 11 minutes and we've not done anything yet. So
the Earth's resources are
seriously,
dwindling.
why?
The solution is the sleep. Periods of high.
I'll make sure you can hear this. I'll make sure you can hear this. I'll make sure you can hear this. It's like a freaking.
I didn't go away to college, so meeting girls and overall socializing wasn't as spoon-fed to me as the kids who went away to party schools and prestigious universities. In my freshman year, I grew bored fairly quickly as my friend group had shrunken tremendously. Meeting people at what was basically a commuter college was next to impossible unless you joined clubs or sports. So my main source of meeting girls, at least, was Tinder and Bumble
Wow.
or Instagram.
His main
One
concern
day
is
I got
being
a follow
girls.
request from some very attractive girl named Miranda.
God dang.
I could tell she was attractive just based off her profile picture. I requested to follow her back, and when she instantly accepted my request, I started to look through her pictures a bit to make sure it wasn't a catfish. Her profile seemed real. She had around 4,500 followers.
God damn.
She only followed a few hundred people, and all her pictures had a lot of likes and comments. And then she DM'd me, and my face lit up. She DM'd me saying she found me on Tinder and thought I was cute.
Oh
Yes,
god.
I had my Instagram username in my Tinder bio at the time. She also had photos posted dated back to beyond a year prior, so everything checked out on my catfish radar. We chatted in the DMs for a few days. When she posted a new picture, I liked it and commented on it as she asked me to. I just put down a couple fire emojis. She liked it, of course. I checked some of the other comments, and they were also from guys gassing her up, throwing her compliments left and right.
Wow.
Clearly, I wasn't the only guy talking to her, or at least trying to. Well, one night we struck up a conversation once again, still in the DMs. I told her I had the house to myself that night and figured I'd be risky and invite her over. She seemed pretty open to it. I just tried my best to keep it as lighthearted as possible. I gave her my address just to ask her how long of a drive it would be. She said 10 minutes. I then confirmed if she was coming or not, and she replied, "Yeah, I'll come."
No.
And she asked me how old I was,
Psych.
and I said 18. She replied that she was 19, but this conflicted with something that I remember she replied to one of the many other men commenting on one of her posts. His comment was something like, "Damn girl, how old are you?"
Damn,
She replied,
brother.
25. The guy she was responding to was some bald guy who looked to be in his 50s. This got me suspicious. I started analyzing the people who were commenting on her posts a little more, and I realized they were all guys. There were no female friends of hers commenting supportive
Yo, that's
stuff
kind of a
that
bit
you
sus.
see on basically any other girl's Instagram. And most of the comments seemed to be just old, creepy dudes telling her how sexy she was. I then looked for any
God
pictures of her
damn.
with other girls, maybe some friends tagged in a picture. But no, any pictures of her with other girls in it, the girls were not tagged in, and there were no comments from any of the girls in the pictures. This was starting to scream catfish, so I blocked the account. Not long after, I'm talking within 10 minutes, I started getting spammed with DMs from 3 random accounts. They all had profile pictures, but all of them had less than 50 followers. They all appeared to be fake, and they were DMing me threats about how I shouldn't have done that.
You shouldn't
Even
have done
replied
that.
to one of them, and instantly, it replied back, "Unblock Miranda."
No.
That account as well, and went to unsend all my recent
Make me
DMs
butter.
to the Miranda account, specifically the one with my address in it.
Make me butter.
I counted myself lucky I didn't give the account my phone number or any other info. I also set my Instagram profile to private. After that ordeal, I ended up trying to get anyone else to come over and take advantage of having the house to myself. But eventually I gave up and went to bed. I have trouble sleeping 90% of the time. And this night was no exception. So after I'd say at least an hour and a half of trying to fall asleep, I heard noises from outside in the living room. Now, this was in February, so it was freezing out and the heat was on full blast. So there were always ticking and clicking sounds from all the baseboard heaters. But a couple noises sounded a little different, like louder. I didn't go check though. And while each click and clack from around the house was making me look over into my dark room, making sure no one was there, I eventually somehow fell asleep.
Now you can see me in the
Not for
corner.
long. I woke up and it was still dark in the room.
Oh, I just turned the light
I knew
on.
something woke me up, like how sometimes you hear a sound in your sleep and it's a delayed reaction before you wake up a few seconds later.
Oh,
That's what
my
happened
cushion
here.
fell over. God
I
dang.
sat up in my bed, the clicking of the heater still filling the room.
I'll turn it back on
I looked in
afterwards.
the far corner of my room, and at first I didn't believe what I was seeing. I looked closer, I could see it better. There was a person in the corner of the room. I swear, I could see their grinning face. I was so scared in that moment.
Where? I can't see
in
it.
bed, unable to
Oh, I'll
even
turn it back
scream.
on. It's not
I
really
ran all the
that
way
much
outside
better.
into the snow in my bare feet, and I rang the neighbor's bell a million times.
You just have to
However,
see
I
me
basically cried
in the
to
TV,
someone
so
over
sorry
the
about that.
house, and I used their phone to call 911. When police searched the entire house, they didn't find anyone. The back door and side door were both locked. So were most of the windows. The only possibility of someone getting in would have been through one of the backyard windows, which was left unlocked. The police officers comforted me in letting me know that it may have just been a hallucination, which I learned
I
through
doubt
research
it.
can happen in the moments after just
I
waking up.
highly doubt it.
Sleeping in the house alone the rest of the night was the most anxious thing I'd ever done after that. But I really won't ever know for sure if what I saw was really just a hallucination, or if, God forbid, whoever was running that Miranda catfish account was in my house. A few months after this incident, that account was either deleted by the user or taken down by Instagram. It no longer exists.
Oh god, adverts. My favourite thing about...
Holiday locations can be...
I don't care. Right, was...
Instagram is my favorite time.
Oh yeah, I just want to say throughout this stream I'll be getting a cup of tea quite a few times. I'm just saying this now because it's obviously going to be longer than my usual or my recent stream length. So yeah, I'm just going to just say this now. I don't know why it's not like a big deal or anything, but still. Alright, let's continue. Cheers. It'd be funny if I spilled it on myself, but it's not that hot anyway, so it's fine.
I spend a good chunk of my free time browsing it. I've gotten my fair share of creepy DMs. I've learned to ignore them. So when I got a notification from Instagram that some random account requested to DM me, I didn't sweat it. I did, however, just open the DM because I always do out of curiosity. The DM was a link to another Instagram profile named Perfect Always with a Z. I pressed the
I
link
doubt
and
it is.
opened this page with a bunch of pictures of girls, like young girls, seemingly varying in ages from 13 to 20. As I continued to scroll through the account, I picked up on an unsettling fact, that all the pictures seemed to have been taken in secret. Like, one girl was on a school bus, one was sitting on a park bench, one was taken from behind a bush of a girl walking on a sidewalk, one was taken of a group of girls at a college campus. Expecting to find perverted comments on the posts, all I found were positive comments like "keep up the good work" and "nice."
Keep up the bloody
There were
good
also some
work.
comments with
Jesus
random
Christ.
numbers,
My videos
like
get better
500,
than
that's
that.
it. And every single
That's
account
just
that
weird.
commented appeared to be spam accounts, like no profile pictures and no followers. It was a weird and creepy account, so I reported it and sent a link of it to my friend Allie. Then I went about my business. I was at school when all this happened, so I couldn't give it too much attention to begin with. It wasn't until after school when I got home that Allie finally texted back saying, "OMFG, who did that? That's crazy." I replied, "I know, it's so creepy." She seemed more concerned and shocked than I was expecting her to be. She replied saying, "You need to report that to the police right away."
Make me bother.
I replied back, "Why me? It's not exactly my problem." She replied back with nothing but question marks mixed with exclamation points.
Why is she getting triggered?
So I said, "Why are you freaking out?" She said, "Why don't you care about someone posting pictures of you on their Instagram?"
Yo!
My heart sank. I immediately rushed to click the link again and view the profile. This time there were 2 new photos uploaded to
Jesus.
the page. One of a girl in the passenger seat of an SUV, and one a picture of me walking home.
Yo!
It was taken from
Bloody
inside the
hell.
car to the side of the road. I remembered seeing that car, and I remembered noticing someone sitting in it. This just seemed unreal. I called Allie at once, freaking out. I told her why I didn't understand at first, and explained how some random account DM'd me the link. Ali told me to report it to Instagram and the police. I told her I reported it to Instagram already and told her to do the same. I stayed locked in my room talking to Ali for at least an hour as I was home alone. The next time I refreshed that Instagram page, it said this page does not exist. First thought, okay, it blocked me, so I asked Ali to refresh it as well, and it said the same thing for her. We both used our Finsta accounts to confirm that it was removed, and it was. The account no longer appeared. I still don't know if it was taken down by Instagram or if the creator of the account deactivated it. I also have no idea what those numbers in the comments meant. Either way, it seemed like one big setup thing, and I'm scared to know any other details about what was going on with that Instagram page.
I don't think you want to know, to be fair. Move that out of the way.
This situation happened in my first year of high school. I was 15 years old and lived pretty far from
15?
school, which
I was
resulted in me
12.
taking
I was
public
11 when I started
transportation
high school.
to
What the
school.
frick?
My Instagram was set to public back then, and I never really cared much about who followed me, which, in retrospect, being a young teen, I should have. My page was pretty standard. I was visible in most of my posts, posing by myself or with a couple of my friends for the most part. I also post a lot of my story, which for those of you who don't know, allows users to share photos and videos to their story for 24 hours. In those stories, I would sometimes include a shot of me waiting for the bus or at the subway with music.
That was just sad. It's like me doing a live stream while waiting for the sodding bus.
And randomly looking at my stories and seeing who viewed them. I had around 120 views, most of them from people I knew.
No, mine would be none.
One account in particular stuck out.
No, but I do get
Profile pic
kind of
showed
good
an
views,
unfamiliar
kind of.
middle-aged man. The selfie was taken
Well,
at a
for my
weird close-up
subscriber
angle,
count,
like those
yeah, it's not
cliche
the
parent
best, but who
selfies.
cares? I don't
He
really
had seen
care.
every one of my stories posted. I didn't really think that much of it and continued about my day. Hours later, when I was nearing sleep at around 2 a.m., I got notifications that that same man had requested to DM me, followed me, and liked all my posts.
Bloody hell.
I had about 12 posts, so it wasn't a crazy amount of notifications.
No, you should do YouTube horror
I opened
stories,
his
like,
DM and it just said,
similar
"Hey,"
to this.
smiley face.
That'll be
I definitely
interesting.
found this crazy weird, so I didn't respond and checked his profile. His username was odd. Sam with a bunch of numbers. He only had one post, the weird angled selfie with 2 likes. I finally got a decent look at his face. He was pale and bald.
You look like an egg in that photo.
He seemed to be
Looks
wearing
like
a
a
ripped
jacket
white t-shirt.
potato.
He had 5 followers and was following around 400 people, which mostly consisted of teenage girls.
I have more followers than that. And I'm even surprised I even managed to make it this far.
I blocked him, plain and simple. In the morning, I got off the subway stop that's next to my school and took a seat on the bench in the middle of the platform to adjust my backpack. Upon doing this, I felt someone watching me. The platform was packed with people, so I thought maybe it was just my anxiety. I rose up and turned to find the now familiar middle-aged creep staring at me. His eyes were
Yo.
sea blue color, sunken and droopy. He stood a good 20 feet from me, just gawking with an angered frown. I felt the strong urge to throw up and cry at the same time. My skin prickled and my whole body filled with fear. Everything I was feeling was multiplied by 1,000 as I realized he was slowly walking towards me.
Oh
No one
god.
paid him any attention. No one batted an eye. And I remember breathing hard and heavily, wishing someone would pick up on what was happening. I turned and speed walked around and past people trying
Go.
to lose him.
Run.
With each step I took back, he took 2 steps forward. He was getting a lot closer to me by the second. It was all happening so fast, and I honest to God didn't know whether to continue to run or attempt to draw attention to him. I ran into a woman with a seemingly friendly face on the stairs, and that's when I decided on the latter. I told her that guy in white is following me. As I spoke, I heard my own voice quiver, and that's when I realized how afraid and panicked I actually was. She noticed the man I was referring to at the bottom of the steps, and right away she called him out. She told him to stop following me or she'd call the police. Her shouts made him freak.
Savage grandma,
Others began to
Jesus.
stop and take note of the situation. She stood protectively in front of me, waiting for his next move. I took the opportunity to snap a quick pic of his face, that I would later use to report him. In my head, all I thought was, he's not going to do anything with people watching me. He can't be that stupid. And I was right. He turned around and got on the next subway train. The woman walked me to my school, and on the way, I couldn't help but wonder how that man could have possibly found me. And then I remembered. I posted a story of the subway stop I got off. That realization alone made my skin crawl and taught me a very important lesson to
Don't
never
be an
reveal your
idiot.
specific location to your public social media. After the woman walked me to my school, I thanked her and actually gave her a hug.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would have done if she hadn't stepped in. I wasn't brave enough to say anything to the man, so frozen in fear. But that woman was. I'm forever grateful for her. And I hope that if anyone is ever in her position, that they will step in and use their voice to help.
Yeah. I also approve of this as well. Help our brother out, you know?
The internet and
How
social
many
media
soys
can
are there?
be a
Like,
very dangerous thing.
there's
This
4.
personal experience of mine is a prime example of what I mean. I've had an Instagram account for like 7 years now.
Dang.
I used to post on it a lot more when I was younger. These days I really don't post at all. And I only open the app like once a day just to browse my friends' posts or whatever. Well, recently I
I
lost
kind of
track.
find out my
I
YouTube
figured
career.
it was
I
time
started
for a new
uploading
one
like all
to
this
be going
fucking
on.
time, but
I did try
I
the
rarely
whole
do
Find My
now.
iPhone
Well, I
thing,
still
but
do,
it said
but
my phone was like 30 miles away. It just
upload
wasn't
like
worth
at
it
least
for that
twice a
long.
week.
Moving on, one day not too long ago, I got a DM from a kid from high
Because
school
obviously
that I
every
hadn't
road,
spoken to in
or
years.
apart from
In
that, I'm
fact, I didn't
still
even
trying to
follow him.
upload more.
I peeped what he DM'd me, and it was a heads up message. He was bringing it to my attention that someone was using my pictures on a fake Instagram account.
Huh?
He shared the profile in question with me,
What
so
the?
I had a look and realized
Yo.
he was right. There was this entire account pretending to be me, just
Yo,
using a
imagine,
different name.
imagine
There were
someone trying to
pictures I'd never even posted
trying to
on
be like
Instagram
a someone
before on there.
famous.
Pictures exclusive to my old phone.
Yo.
My head was spinning. I actually felt sick over this. I immediately assumed whoever found my old phone somehow bypassed the password. The
It better not
account
be
had
1,
50
2, 3, 4
followers, and it
the
was
bloody
following around
password.
150 people. The posts all got like 5 to 10 likes. Most had no comments, but some had basic comments like a flame emoji or whatever. This account
5
was
to
literally
10
pretending
likes,
to be me.
Jesus.
It had a story posted, so I went to check that, and I felt even more sick to my stomach. It was a boomerang panning from my house to my car over and over, as if they were showing off both. A boomerang is basically just a looping 2-second video that goes back and forth from one point to another. This meant whoever was doing this knew where I lived and had any other information I may have still had on that phone. The story was posted only a few hours ago. I immediately thought to go to Find My iPhone settings and turn on Lost Mode. I regretted not doing that the second I lost that phone.
Yeah, you idiot.
When I tracked my old phone one last time, I was in for another horrible surprise.
Uh-oh.
It said the location of my old phone was right outside our house somewhere. There's a lot of space between houses in our gated community.
Damn.
There was no mistaking that person was still out there on the property somewhere. I turned on Lost Mode on the old phone and ran downstairs to get my roommate Corey's attention. It seemed he was already occupied, though, by his husky barking at something in the backyard. Corey was standing by the door watching his dog. I explained in as few words as possible because I felt the situation was dire. We stepped out into the yard together to call his dog in. He was out in the grass barking rather viciously at someone or something out of sight. The dog was barely visible because it was so dark out. We went together to grab the dog by the collar, and as we got hold of him, we saw someone in the bushes run away into the patch of trees that separated our house from the next house. It was like a jump scare moment in a horror movie. That dark figure I saw run into the trees had to be the stalker pretending to be me on Instagram. I just knew it. We brought the dog inside.
My man just knew it, you know.
You
When you know, you know.
Why didn't we let the dog chase down whoever it was? That's because Corey's dog is all bark, no bite. He wouldn't ever harm a fly. At some point in the middle of the night, the dog started barking again downstairs by the front door. This was very unusual behavior, so Corey and I both checked out the windows and then stepped outside. It was the most scared I had ever felt in my life, standing on the front porch, looking out into the dark night, knowing someone was out there probably watching us. We went back inside, and for the rest of the night, silence. I think whoever had my phone turned it off or smashed it after I put it in Lost Mode to avoid it being tracked any further. I say this because it would no longer update the location. I checked everywhere by the last known location, but it didn't turn up. After DMing that account that I knew who they were and was filing a report to the police, the account disappeared only a few minutes later. I don't think it was deactivated. I think it was completely deleted. My threat seemed to work. Like I said, this was recently though, and I'm still staying very aware of my surroundings. If If you are looking into creating a YouTube channel of your own,
Oh,
but have
just
no idea where to
sponsors. Alright, so that's the first video. That was actually mad, you don't even know. I always have got a bit more lighting here than I usually do, because obviously the sun's outside. But obviously it's sunny where I live. Right, well, it's sunny today, so, you know. Well, I can't experience the sun apart from in here where I'm actually boiling. I've got my Sonic Seed shirt on. And where is he? He's literally sat over there. Hold on, let me get him. I need to try and move past this without breaking anything. Or like knocking anything over. Wait, screw it. I'm not doing that. I jump on the bed. Because I do this so I don't really have to do any of this stuff. There you go. Look at him. And look at his brother. Look at him. Look at him. I don't know why I have a Sonic brush at 15 years old, but who cares? I don't care. So yeah, pretty much I got this on holiday because I went on holiday in September of last year, and yeah, that was like I went on a hiatus from my big world for a bit, and yeah, I got this guy. Well, I got Knuckles and Shadow there, which you saw over there, but I think I showed him off in my last stream on Team Sonic Racing, but yeah. Because obviously I just met Sonic in my big world at the time I got this. Because obviously I did double bills every day before I went away. And I've actually been thinking about that. Because I'm going on holiday this year as well. But yeah, I'll tell you that in a sec. Yeah, but yeah, I actually just met Sonic when I got this push. And he's like, I could always be with you. It's like, that's a bit dodgy, Sonic, I can't lie. So I just put you over there. Whee. Yeah, I am going on holiday again this year, and I'm not going to be doing the hiatus bullshit again. I'm going to start the next video, but let me pause it. Seriously, adverts? Are you dumb? I didn't ask. I'm not playing these games. Right. Yeah, I'm not going to be doing my few-week hiatus for my big world. I'm not going to do that again. I'm not doing that. I'm not playing these games. So basically, what I'm deciding to do, I know it's a bit early, we're in February and I'm going in September again, but I need to kind of address this issue. I am still going to be doing Epic World when I'm on holiday. You might be thinking, how can you do that? Well, you probably won't, because probably no one's going to see this. But in future streams, I'll explain it again, so just in case people who didn't watch this stream can have a better understanding. So when I go on holiday, I won't keep pausing it, but I just need to address this first. Excuse me. I'm not going to be doing my hiatus thing again. So pretty much what I'm deciding to do, when we get to like August time, I'm going to do what I've been doing recently, like recording Epic World videos back to back. I'll probably record August's episodes and September's episodes. Only because I still want to do Epic World when I'm on holiday. Plus, we'll probably be over episode 300 by then, so I want to keep going and keep going. I don't want to like take any breaks from Epic World because I hate when I have to do that. I know I kind of have to I have to sometimes, but I hate it every time, and it feels so good to return to it. But I'm not gonna do that this year. I'm gonna record the Epic World videos back in August, like September's episodes. Because obviously, I'm actually going to be doing an Epic World episode for my 3-year Epic World anniversary. Yes, 3 years. Yeah. And yeah, that's how we're going to do this. So I'm pretty much I'm going to do what I've been doing recently. Recording all of what's it called? Epic World videos back to back. And then, yeah, throughout September, the only videos that'll be coming out is Epic World videos. Because obviously, I don't even want to record that many videos of anything else. So yeah, the only videos that'll be coming out is Epic World videos, but, you know, that's kind of the point. Because my Epic World is my main concern. It always has been, since I've been taking this seriously. Because when I started my Epic World, I wasn't taking this seriously. So, yeah. So yeah, Epic World will continue as normal. You know. Just turn it around and let's go. 3 photos with disturbing backgrounds. Oh, brilliant. Oh, jeez.
This first photo that you're about to see in a few moments was taken by a viewer named Jane. Jane had met a man named Jeremy off a dating app.
Oh, of course they
She
have.
hadn't been on any dating apps since her at the time recent breakup, and she thought it was finally fine to get back into the dating scene. After swiping away on some dating app and conversing with a few people, she matched Jeremy, who seemed to be the kind of guy she would feel comfortable with and connect with.
I
Jane
doubt
describes
that.
herself as a good-looking but shy and
If this is
reserved
on
type,
horror
and she
stuff,
described
then I
Jeremy
doubt
as
it.
an above-average-looking guy with a buzz cut who was exactly her type.
I like you,
He had a
could
full
you?
tattoo sleeve on his left arm and had mostly pictures of himself outdoors. Most notably, his first picture was of him leaning on his pickup truck with his dog in the bed of the truck and the woods in the background. The two struck up a conversation about his dog and then dogs in general, and eventually the conversation segued to local bars that the two would frequent. Jeremy picked up Jane, and the two ended up going to a bar called Lansdowne Street, and in her words, kind of hitting it off.
Oh,
Jeremy
God.
dropped off Jane at home, but beforehand he seemed a bit reluctant, wanting their little date to continue.
Get your
even
ass
at one point
inside.
implying that she should go back to his place with him.
Get your ass
She politely
inside.
rejected him, and that was the end of their first date. The two would text back and forth the next few days, and saw each other again the following Friday, where they went out to get fast food and ice cream.
Get your ass
After chatting in
inside.
Jeremy's car driving around for
I'm
a
not
bit,
playing this
he
game.
ended up taking them to his house, where he started trying to get her to come into his
Get
house.
in. Get
He
in the
rejected his
house.
request over
I'm
and
not
over
playing your
until he got
games.
creepy, and then he started getting a bit physical. Jane said she didn't know if he was trying to physically remove her from the car. Or
Get
if
me
he was
in
trying
the
to take some
house.
kind of physical
Get your
advance
ass
on
in
her.
there.
Either way, she shoved his
Go
arms
on.
off of her and left the car, walking quickly down the street. Jeremy called her a few times, but she ignored him and kept walking. She had her older brother Chris come pick her up. Shockingly, after a long back and forth over text, Jeremy cursed Jane out, but then minutes later switched his tone to apologetic and regretful. Jane blocked his number, figuring he was not what he initially seemed and he might be crazy. Now this is when the photo that I mentioned earlier comes into play. Jane was awoken to a sound outside her window. It was the sound of the recycling bin full of glass and cans on the side of the house being kicked. It was late at
Wow.
night, so this was cause for alarm. She got out of the bed to look out her bedroom window. Upon lifting up the blind and looking around outside for just a second, she saw something that made her stomach churn.
Jesus.
In this picture that she took, you see Jeremy standing in the darkness with his
Is
phone
that
on his
Jeremy?
head, facing the window. She managed to not scream and be brave
Oh.
enough to take this picture when she saw him out there. Jeremy tried opening the window when he was seen and started yelling Jane's name repeatedly. Jane screamed for her brothers and her dad to help.
Jane.
By this point, Jeremy had taken off. According to Jane, the whole block had to hear his 8-cylinder pickup truck flooring it down the street. Tempted to text Jeremy threats of calling the police, she showed restraint and brought the info to the police the next day and filed for a restraining order using the texts and pictures as proof of reason. She sent a photo of the restraining order to Jeremy, which went unresponded to because she never unblocked him. What Jeremy planned to do at Jane's window is not exactly clear, but even if it wasn't to break in and he wanted to talk to her, that wouldn't be okay either. And after the toxic messages he sent her, nobody would assume he's a completely level-headed individual. In fact, those messages, mixed with his sneaking around her house in late hours of the night and coming to her window after being blocked, suggest he might have been a dangerous individual.
Can't damn. Oh yeah, speaking of Jeremy from Epic World,
What you're looking
yeah, I'm
at
sure
right
about
now
Epic
is
World in a
one
minute,
of the
but
many dolls made by a
in
guy fully
April, he said he's gonna
lost,
try and make
a
more
Russian journalist
appearances.
and college professor,
In April.
expert knowledge
Yes,
of
in April.
cemeteries. As a
Yeah,
child,
because after they recorded
Anatoly
March,
began
and yeah,
wandering
you know.
through cemeteries
Well, in
with
April,
breath
he
of
will
hope.
make a
And as time went on,
permanent
he developed a
return.
fascination for the
Because
dead.
he's never,
Decades
no,
later,
he's
this
not been in that much
fascination led to
videos.
a hobby of
So yeah,
collecting
just want to
dolls.
get that out of the way.
This hobby
Just
had a
reminded me
macabre
about that.
obsession that drew upon his particular interests, digging up the dead and making dolls out of their corpses.
What?
Yes, the doll you're looking at is actually made out of a dead
Oh
body.
god,
After
damn!
making his human dolls,
Your butt
he
is-
kept them in his home as his companions and possibly lovers, evident by some of the stuff
Oh,
he
you're
wrote about
sad.
the dolls. For example, I kissed her once, then again, then again. But
What?
the really disturbing part of this is that the dolls were in majority made from little girls aged 3
Oh,
to
that
12.
is even
He would
worse!
apply lipstick and makeup to many of their faces.
Bloody
He
hell!
even marked the birthday of each of his dead victims in his bedroom.
I feel sick.
His self-proclaimed expertise on cemeteries
Dang!
was a lie, as he was able to desecrate countless graves in his hometown while evading police for years until he was finally caught after the increasing suspicion at the growing number of defiled graves in the area. When police searched his home, they found 26 life-size dolls, or rather mummified corpses, scattered throughout the house. But the police didn't know they were corpses at first, until he openly admitted to it. His parents, who lived in the same flat as him, claimed to know nothing of his activities.
Oh, you dumb!
His parents and others who had seen the dolls stated that they did not suspect that there were dead bodies inside, but then again, who would? Not even the police suspected the dolls to be bodies at first. His parents said they thought it was just his hobby to make such big dolls and did not see anything wrong with it. During a hearing in which he sought to be released from a psychiatric hospital to care for his elderly mother and live with a new girlfriend, he refused to apologize to his victim's parents. In his mind, he thought he was doing something good, as he stated he felt great sympathy for the dead children and thought that they could be brought back to life by either science or black magic. He even went as far as to shun the parents for leaving their daughters in the cold, whereas he took them into the warmth to be reborn.
What?
Until he dried the corpses using a combination of
I
salt
mean, you
and
turn them into
baking
the dolls,
soda,
they're not gonna
and then stored the
move. They're
bodies
still
in secure,
dead.
dry
Are you
places
dumb?
in and around cemeteries. Once the bodies dried, he carried them to his home, where he used various methods to make the dolls, in an attempt to give the children functional bodies to be used when he eventually discovered a way to bring them back to life, feeling that their physical remains were too decayed and ugly for them to feel comfortable or happy. While some of the parents went on until they locked away behind bars for life, it was determined that he suffered a form of paranoid schizophrenia and has since been held in a psychiatric hospital. From his perspective, he may have thought he was saving a bunch of young girls, but from any other perspective, it was a horrific, downright disturbing thing to do.
Oh, that is just weird.
The picture you're looking at right now is of Amy Reeves and her baby sister. The backstory behind this picture isn't as cute and wholesome as one would imagine. On this day, Amy was taking her sister out trick-or-treating for Halloween. Amy lives in the backwoods of Texas. She moved from Houston to a small town closer to Galveston, as she described to be about an hour drive towards the southeast coast. Amy's move from the big city to a very small town was much needed for her, as she was sick of the city life, and settling into a very small home with 2 acres was a nice change of scenery for her. However, she kept noticing something completely eerie from the moment she moved into the house. It had nothing to do with the property or the home, but rather something outside the home. She kept noticing every time she would pull out of her driveway, a car would follow her and go the exact route she was going. She would ignore it and move on with her day at first, but it kept happening every single time that she would leave her house. In one of the neighboring houses, the same vehicle would pull out of their driveway whenever she would pull out of hers. She very soon started to suspect that there were some ill intentions there. However, for a while, she kept ignoring it and still moved on with her day, hoping it would stop eventually. When she was returning home from work one day, something in her gut told her to take a different route home. So she listened to her gut and took a different route. Instead of taking the highway, she took the service road towards the entrance of her little neighborhood. Instead of driving straight through the neighborhood to take a left, she took a slightly sharp right at the entrance and took a 3-minute longer route back home. But even on this detour, she eventually spotted the same vehicle in a rearview mirror. As she started to speed away to try to escape the car, it started flashing her aggressively. Eventually, she makes a left turn, and the car doesn't seem to follow. She proceeded home, and just as she thought she was safe and the stalker wasn't around, she realized she was wrong. The stalker's
You
car,
are very
with the lights
wrong.
still on, was approaching, the lights becoming brighter as it got closer. By now, it was clear the stalker had been following her home, even down her new route. The man pulled into his driveway and just sat there, while Amy went into the house. While inside, she looked through the window out at the car, and the man must have taken notice, because he started revving his engine. By this point, it was clearly a full-fledged stalker harassment situation, so Amy called the police in hopes to have them go and talk to him for her. When police arrived, she explained the whole situation the best she could, noting multiple times that she just moved in and she doesn't know the man.
I wonder
The
how he.
police went over to the
Oh,
man's
I
house
feel
to
like
talk
I was
with
gonna
him.
say, how
Meanwhile,
does he
Amy
know
went to her
this?
restroom.
I think they
She was
email
meant to be under the realization
like these
that
stories
she had
to
left
him,
the
and
back
then
door
he reads them
unlocked
out.
when she went outside to smoke a cigarette not too long ago. While she was in the bathroom, she heard footsteps walking towards her bedroom. She got up to shut and lock the bathroom door instantly, exposing where she was to the intruder. And seconds later, there was a knock on the wall separating the bathroom and her bedroom. Even though it was fairly obvious her cover was already blown, she remained as quiet as she could. The thought that maybe it could have been one of the police officers came up in Amy's head, but after one look out the bathroom window, that idea was out the window. Outside, she could see a police officer struggling with what appeared to be damp wood from the half-rotted shed beside the stalker's house. Amy pulled up her pants, getting ready to run to the front door. And that's when she heard it again, an aggressive knock on the other side of the wall from her bedroom. The stalker was inside her bedroom, no doubt. With not many other options other than being a sitting duck, Amy opened the bathroom door and bolted for the front door and outside to try and find an officer.
Go on.
There were none in sight,
Run.
not even the one that was struggling
Wow.
with the rotted wood moments earlier, just their empty squad car. After running around looking for the officers, She returned closer to her house, where there was a commotion heard from inside, and it sounded as though there was a struggle between an officer and somebody else. Amy re-entered her house to see one of the officers on her bedroom floor in a lot of pain, who looked to be struggling holding his neck, not bleeding, but bruising, as if the man punched him in the throat repeatedly or strangled him. The officer never told Amy exactly what happened because his partner called an ambulance for him, but Amy was notified later that same day that the man who was stalking her was taken into custody for assaulting and fleeing from an officer. Amy never learned why the cop's partner was struggling with the wood outside, or how exactly the one officer knew to check the inside of her house. In all likelihood, by the time the police had arrived, the stalker had already let himself into her house. And when the police didn't get an answer at the stalker's house, one of them returned to Amy's house to find the door ajar, and the rest you could figure out. The picture you saw minutes earlier of Amy and her baby sister was sent to her phone only days after moving in, and it was taken by a passing car without her even knowing it. After this entire stalker incident, it became much clearer who took the picture, though Amy still doesn't know how exactly they could have gotten her phone number.
Damn. Dang. Not even videos that look at that photo with the big sister and the little teeny weeny baby. Like even that could be bloody tough on like the back story behind it. Jeez. Okay, so buddy, we have a lot of stuff to catch up on. Jeez, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, bloody no. Right, let's not waste any time. And let's get right into this. Listen, I haven't got the flu, I got COVID, be quiet. Right, so this is Field Trip Horror Stories Part 3. Damn!
We took a field trip in middle school to a salt marsh in our town. It was for our science class to study marine life or something like that. I don't even remember. All I remember is we were in teams of 2, and our assignment was to take notes of certain things we could see through our binoculars. I was paired with my best friend Jordan. He and I were lagging behind the group because we wanted to sneak off and do our own thing.
Oh yeah,
So
later
when our
bad
teacher,
guys.
Miss Stern, and the 2 other teachers on the trip with us were far enough away, we turned around on the path and went a different way. The whole salt marsh was just a large maze of wooden walkways built over the swampy waters. The trip was so mind-numbingly boring to us at our young age that we couldn't stand the assignment anymore. We went off to explore down the alternate walkway that we weren't supposed to go down. It had
Oh
a big
yeah,
sign
naughty,
posted
naughty,
up
you
saying
teasing
something
me,
like, "Don't go down this way
naughty.
unless you work for the town." So guess what we did?
You
Of
did
course we
the,
went down this way.
you idiot.
There was a lot of super tall grass everywhere, so we were well hidden from the teachers or the rest of the students. We walked for a while, till we passed this little shed-sized building that said "Do not enter" on the door. We tried the door handle, but it was locked, so we proceeded onward. The more we walked and the more turns we made, the more we realized this place was absolutely ginormous and a literal maze. There came a time where we agreed it was time to head back to the group, because we weren't having much more fun ourselves than we would be with the group. Plus, it was getting late and we'd been gone for a while, and we didn't want to get caught, so we started going back in what we thought was the right direction. But after apparently wrong turn after wrong turn, we admitted to each other that we were lost.
God damn.
Any sense of direction now was completely gone.
Well
The sun
done.
was clearly starting to go down.
I'm not
Panic
that
didn't
stupid
set
enough
in
to
just
do
yet,
that.
but we were definitely worried. Time dragged on and we couldn't find the damn path back to where we came from. We tried finding that little building that we had just passed as a sign that we were going the right direction, but we couldn't. The tall, swampy marsh grass was taller than us and blocked sight of everything. The sun was now setting, and there was no way our class and teachers were still here. This was before cell phones were a big thing, let alone among middle schoolers. We had no way of calling for help, but we refrained from screaming until the sun was practically all the way down and panic now started to set in. Suddenly it seemed we weren't alone. Jordan and I started to hear the splashing of water nearby, exactly the sound of someone walking through the probably knee-high water. We started to walk faster down the wooden pathway, and when we stopped again to listen, the splashing was still there, getting louder and closer. We didn't have flashlights, only the moon to light the way. We knew we weren't alone. Something or someone was in the tall grass, hiding, somehow watching us. Jordan basically had a fuck it moment and went to the grass where the splashing was coming from, pushed a bunch of the giant pieces to the side, and then screamed like a little girl. I didn't see what he saw, but I didn't need to. I ran right behind him down the pathway until we both had to stop to catch our breaths. He saw a person hiding in the grass, though I already figured that before he even told me. We kept running and then stopping to catch our breaths until the sound of a helicopter overhead came closer. We saw it, flying over with a searchlight on. We started waving our hands in the air. Whether that helped or not, I don't know. But eventually the spotlight landed on us and stayed there. We expected the helicopter to lower and pick us up because we were idiot little kids. So when it just hovered there, we were confused. But what they were doing was showing where we were to the police search team that came looking for us, after our parents reported to the school that we never came home. We were eventually found by a bunch of police officers and led back to safety. We told them there was someone hiding in the marsh, stalking us, of course. Apparently, Miss Stern either miscounted on the bus back to school, or she simply didn't do a head count at all.
You
The
idiot.
buses left without us. Either way, she messed up big time, and I'm surprised she wasn't fired. This was easily hands down the scariest night of my life, and it happened when I was so young, too.
Well, one is kind of their fault for leaving the group, and number two is their fault for the teacher's fault not to keep count. Surely every teacher on planet Earth's supposed to do that when you're on a field trip, like a dog.
Field trip to Boston for our U.S. history class. Part of our assignment was following the Freedom Trail and viewing historical sites like the Bunker Hill Monument. There were, of course, some teachers and volunteer chaperones on the trip, but between me and my two friends, Sean and Matt, we were all 18, so we easily convinced one of the more chill teachers to just let us go off and do our own thing. So we strayed off into the city and just messed around having fun checking out the place. We checked out Boston Harbor, where we got food at some waterfront restaurant. Then we checked out the Quincy Market and some other historical landmarks. And then finally we ended up at this little cemetery called the Granary Burying Ground. This is where the horror to this story began. There were, of course, a few other people in this little cemetery besides the three of us. We weren't exactly that interested in it. We were just walking through it.
Fair
It was
enough.
basically one of the major things on the checklist of places that we were supposed to see. Anyway, there was this one guy who caught my attention. He was wearing this old-looking trench coat and a small top hat. It was definitely too warm out to be wearing a trench coat, I know that. He had a gray mustache too, but that's about all I really remember of his appearance. The reason I picked up on him was because he was looking right at me. He was
Stop.
standing still. He wasn't walking along looking at the gravestones like everyone else. I said to my friends in a slight murmur, "Why is this guy looking at me?"
Will you stop looking at me? I'm not playing these games.
As we got
That'll
back
be
to the
me
street,
if I was
told
in
them
that
more about
situation.
it, that I was being eyed down by
Well,
some
probably.
weird-looking old dude. Neither of them took notice, but I didn't want to go back to point the guy out, so we kept walking. We were supposed to meet everyone a few minutes into our walk. I turned around for whatever reason to look behind me. And there
I
he
like
was
these little
again.
videos
That
because you
man
can.
in the top hat, not too far behind me. I noticed him through the crowd.
This is so
He had
like
on his
the
same
video's so
neutral,
peaceful,
almost
but yet
unhappy
what's
looking
going,
face.
what he's
His gray
talking about.
mustache covering most of his lips. And yes, it seemed like he was looking at me again. He wasn't even moving. I turned back to face forward and didn't see anything. If it happened again, I'd know something was up. And it did. At the Quincy Market, when we were about to meet with the rest of the group, I saw that man again, far away by a street corner, facing me. He almost blended in with the crowd if it weren't for his top hat. I ran up to Sean and Matt and pressed their shoulders to get them to turn around and look. I pointed at the corner that the man was at not even 10 seconds earlier, and he was gone. I told them that that creepy old dude that I mentioned for the burial
What?
ground seemed to be following us.
How?
He kept looking at us, or at me specifically. I have zero clue where he could have went that quickly, though. It didn't make sense. That night at the hotel, I was having a nightmare in which I was in my bedroom back at home, and I was hiding under my bed, and I could see feet coming closer to the bed until they stopped at the foot of the bed. And then the man in the top hat looked under the bed at me with his neutral blank expression on his face. I woke up only moments later to a loud thump in the hotel room. I had no idea
Oh,
what it
you
was.
got to be
I
joking.
woke up Matt and Sean and the third guy who was in our hotel room, asking if any of them heard that. No one did but me. I still have no clue what that sound was. Years later, I was going through old photo albums with my grandparents around Christmas time, and I stopped on one page where there was a very familiar looking man in one of them. He was wearing a very similar, if not the exact same type of top hat as the man in Boston all those years ago. He also had the same gray mustache and a neutral expression on his face. I asked my grandparents who it was, and they told me it was my grandma's father. Now, I'm not saying I saw my grandma's dead dad that day in Boston.
Oh,
The resemblance was so uncanny that I'm almost positive my mind was playing tricks on me. That whole series of events still freaks me out to this day.
god damn.
This takes place back in November of 2013. was in the 9th grade, and I went on a field trip with my Boy Scout troop to Alcatraz Island.
What's that?
For those of you who don't know, Alcatraz Island is a famous prison.
Oh,
San Francisco
why would you go
Bay.
there for a
We
flipping
had the
school trip?
opportunity to sleep on the island in the prison cells.
Ooh.
A few of my friends from the troop and I had elected to go, seeing as this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We arrived on a ferry around 2 p.m. or so. Our tour guide was telling us about the history of the island and how there were a couple of men who once managed to escape and tried to swim away, but they were never found. The common belief is that they drowned, which is very likely because not only is it a far swim, but San Francisco is very windy and the water from the bay is super cold, so hypothermia is also a likely cause of death. As the tour went along, my friends and I were joking around about how this place was haunted. To make things even more thrilling, our tour guide decided to wait until midnight to take us to the execution area in the hospital.
Execution?
My friends
What?
Ash, Steve, and I kept trying to scare each other every opportunity we got. Like I hid behind one of the dark corners and popped out when Steve was approaching. Eventually, we made our way to the execution room. Ash and I immediately picked up on how bad it smelled, but nobody else could smell anything. And the guide had said that the execution room hadn't been used in at least 100 years.
100
Keep in mind that
years?
Alcatraz has
Bloody
been
no.
decommissioned since the 1960s. Plus, the bodies are taken away after execution, so the smell would only make sense if there were rotting corpses. Sure, there were some
Oh,
blood
duh.
stains, but they were like 100+ years old. Ash noted that it was weird that no one else could smell what we had smelled, and I joked around saying maybe some spirit is trying to freak us out or something. We went to the hospital next.
No, it'd be funny if that was actually true to scare these little assholes.
Ash and I immediately looked at each other as we heard the sounds, and the lights started to flicker at the same time. The guy told us that the lights always flickered, and then he started to explain how the mentally insane would usually come to the hospital, and how there was once this crazy inmate who always would whisper when he spoke. It kind of paralleled us hearing those weird whispering sounds. Later on, a bunch of us played cards in the scout named Kevin's cell. It was definitely quite the experience to play cards in a prison cell, I must say. It was around 3
Is that pretty much what
when
all
Ash
prison-
asked me to go with him to the bathroom.
What prison cell
I agreed.
inmates
So
do,
we made our way over there.
I think. I've
I had
obviously
finished
never been to
beforehand,
prison, so I don't
I
know.
waited outside while Ash was finishing up. I had been waiting for him for a while, pacing back and forth. So I decided to
Yo,
go back
get
to
your
the
ass
bathroom
out
to
of
chat.
there!
I could hear the sink running, accompanied by the paper towel dispenser. Ash, are you almost done? I asked. The moment I said that, the sink shut off, and I heard a slam from one of the stall doors closing.
Damn!
Ash, I called out. No response. My heart froze when the most disturbing sounding cackle I had ever heard in my life came from the stall that had just previously shut.
Ayo, what the?
I turned around to make a run for the outside of the bathroom. I screamed for Ash, yelling this isn't funny, and he replied from the other side of the door, what are you talking about, dude? He opened the door, but I didn't stay inside of there. I went back outside and told him what just happened. His jaw dropped, and he had the most worried look in his eyes. Then he asked me, if you were in here this whole time, then what was that breathing I heard outside? We both realized that something was serious.
No,
We sprinted out
don't
of
do
the
this
bathroom
to
as
me.
fast as we could, and made it back to the cells where everyone was asleep. We decided not to wake everyone and to just get some sleep. About an hour after falling asleep, I was awoken to the sensation of someone tapping my back. I scanned the room and saw nothing, but I knew I was not alone. With the slightest bit of vision in the dark, I saw something black in the corner of the cell. I let out a blood-curdling scream. My scoutmaster came over and asked me what the problem was.
What is the problem, my brother?
Needless to say, Alcatraz has a long history. What my friend and I had experienced was nothing short of paranormal.
Yeah. That was mad, you know. I think like these, like the first, I think these getting better. Oh god, I think these are getting better and better. I feel like, yeah, the recent one, Instagram was actually very good. To be fair, well, obviously the Instagram, he's obviously done like many Instagram videos over the years, and he kind of done similar. Well, the photos were really good. The field trip horror stories were actually the best ones I've seen so far, no doubt. Because obviously all three of them had their own twist to it. And, because now we're watching 3 creepy email stories. So there's emails, 5 on creepers unsolved mysteries, 7 creepy things that happen on New Year's Eve, 3 disturbing true Christmas horror stories, freaky video ring camera horror stories, part 2. And the last one we haven't reacted to yet, 3 disturbing true office horror stories. So without further ado, let's go. Oh yeah, I need to turn it around, not my help. I'm gonna get through all this, and then if we have time, we should.
Never check your spam folder in your email.
We'll react to some older videos after we've reacted to all the ones we haven't watched yet.
And Inside the email would be threats of leaking your information or worse unless you paid a certain ransom, usually in Bitcoin.
What the?
This usually happens when a hacker, or even often a regular user, will likely find this info by merely searching any of the numerous data breach databases available on criminal forums. In March of 2019, a 25-year-old man named Joe Albanese received a similar email to what was just described. It was titled his password that he used for every account that he had. This was obviously a cause for alarm, so he opened it immediately to read the contents of the email. This is what it said. Hey Joe, all you really need to know is that I know your password and other personal information. I won't come after you, I won't harm you. As long as you send me a small amount of money.
A small amount of money, you
$5,000
taking the
in the form of
moral
Bitcoin.
high ground.
We're going to refer to it as a donation for a good cause, not as any kind of blackmail. My Bitcoin address is... If you don't send me the money, bad things may happen. Don't even bother going to the police. This email is untraceable. Joe did some research and learned that these kinds of threatening emails are common scams, and usually nothing will come of them. Still, Joe replied to the email asking, what other personal information of mine do you currently possess? I'd love to know. He sent this as a sort of challenge to the email, not even really expecting a response or for it to even go through. But it did, and he promptly received a response back saying, I know your home address is F. If you go to the police, I will know about it and you will be sorry. This is when worry would really set in with just about anyone, as having a password leaked in a data breach is one thing, but some unknown person having your home address threatening you with it is completely next level. Joe didn't reply to the email for several days, but he also didn't go to the police. He decided to wait it out and see what would happen next, and after 3 days, there was a follow-up email saying, I'm still waiting for the payment. I won't wait much longer.
Well then, come, get
Joe
it.
replied this time saying, I'm not paying you $5,000. If you want to come to my house, you'll get a face full of lead. This was a complete bluff though, as he doesn't actually own a gun, and the hacker likely knew that, because that same night, Joe received a follow-up email containing a picture of his house. It was the side of his parents' house, and zoomed in on his bedroom window upstairs. He didn't want to tell his parents in fear of worrying them, but now
Well,
that
you
his
kind
gun
of have
bluff wouldn't
to.
work, he knew he may have to get them or the police involved. He responded one more time saying, I don't have $5,000. I'm broke paying off student loans. The house you sent a picture of is my parents' house. They did nothing wrong. If you need to do this, please do it to someone else. I don't have the money to send you even if I wanted to. There was no response this time, but within an hour, the sound of glass shattering from downstairs traveled throughout the house.
Oh, hell no.
There was one of their decorative bricks from the front of the house, laying in the dining room among thousands of tiny shards of glass from the broken window. Joe tried to explain the situation as quickly as he could, and while he and his dad took a quick look outside for anyone who could be out there, his mother called the police. Joe showed the police officers the emails and everything, which were forwarded to the police department. A police officer stayed parked outside the Albanese house for a couple hours that night. Joe blocked the email address from sending any further emails, and as far as he knew, he was never contacted again. The police had a hard time tracing back the original source of the email, as it was sent from an untraceable device, likely an iPod Touch or a similar device.
Oh. He did say it's
At some
untraceable.
point, everyone imagines being famous in their lives. A lot of people create this image in their head that being in the public eye creates for nothing but a fairy tale life.
No.
It's far from the truth. Being under the spotlight in any capacity comes with a lot of...
You don't get any personal life if you're famous. I'm just happy. That's the one thing why I'm happy I'm not famous, because I don't get any free time to myself.
An ex-radio host and
And
DJ who was centered
anything
in
you
Los
do is
Angeles had a long,
pretty much will
seemingly
bite you in the
never-ending
asshole.
chain of emails
Right
from
on.
an obsessed fan. It started around 2005 or 2006 when the DJ started noticing a regular listener, someone who listened to the show every day and would call in on the request line from time to time. At one point, the listener won a prize for the show, and in order to deliver the prize, the DJ requested her email, and that's where things began.
Uh-oh.
In order to be polite and cordial with the girl, he would answer all of her emails, and when Facebook started to become popular, he added her back where she commonly liked and commented on his posts. This went on for a while, until one day the fan professed her love for him. The DJ rejected this advance in the most polite way he could. She seemingly accepted the rejection, and the DJ thought it would be the end of it, but it wasn't. In 2011, she emailed him a link to a blog that she was writing, where she would post about him and their quote-unquote love multiple times.
Oh, yo! Jesus Christ, what the hell's happening here then? What the hell? I know, like, I like celebrities, like, I'm not going to say what celebrities, because I don't want to, you know, people to take the mick, but I do watch movies and I like certain celebrities, but not to that extent. Jesus, I respect their work and respect what they're doing. That's pretty much all there is to it. But this girl's gone on a whole nother level. Jesus Christ.
Followed him over to a new radio station.
Oh crap.
Was religiously listening to his shows, assigning meaning to the musical playlist.
Oh no.
For example, the song Marry Me by Train was popular at the time, and whenever that song would play on his show, she would blog about it actually being a marriage proposal from the DJ.
Oh, you idiot.
She began saving all his photos from his social media.
What the
photos of other
frick?
women in
This
his
is
life, like friends and girlfriends, and posting them to her blog with extremely hateful words. She'd make posts raging about him being a man whore, followed by another post not even 10 minutes later in a completely different tone, apologetic and soft, implying she may have bipolar tendencies. The DJ did his best to ignore it, even though by this point he was extremely creeped out. But as she again began
I agree with the
emailing
DJ.
him,
I
he
would
tried
be
more
creeped out.
forcefully this time to get her to stop, but she wouldn't stop. The DJ started sending DMCA requests to her blog post for the photos of his that she had posted.
Pattern.
The repeated violations got her blog shut down, but then she started emailing him instead of posting blogs.
Uh-oh.
He made a filter folder so he never would have to see them aside from occasionally peeking at the insanity in the folder from time to time, just out of curiosity.
Smart.
Years went by and he hadn't answered any of her emails after 2 of them when he very adamantly told her to stop all communications and leave him alone. This continued for years, and in total she has sent him over 4,000 emails, all of which he's archived.
Give up, brother.
Just a select few of them. The more recent emails have gotten very dark and violent in tone. In one of the most recent ones, she was threatening to find and hurt the DJ and happily go to jail for it. In another one, she listed the specific neighborhood in which he lived, which he worries she may have his address if she already knew what town he lives in.
No.
In an effort to stem the flow of information, he
Just
deleted all his social
pattern.
media accounts a while back, but she would still email him pictures he appeared in from his friends who had public profiles.
How the frick has she gotten all this? Nah. How in the bloody hell has she managed to get all that? Seriously? I'm not having that. That's just too weird. That's too much even I can stand. I love how at the start he's trying to be polite. I get what he's trying to do. I would try to do this. Well, I'll probably do. If I was in this situation, I'll probably do the exact same thing he's been doing. But after a while, you get to a boiling point. It's like, fam, you're just sad. You've been emailing 4,000 bloody emails for like years. It doesn't even say how many years. Just give up and find her, bro. Jesus. That's just sad. Jesus. This is getting too weird. But turn it back around.
Photos that he appeared in. Most disturbingly, she sent the DJ photos of a shrine she had made of him in her home.
What?
And photos of his social media that she had posted up on the walls, desks, etc.
Nah.
Being a DJ, his appearance schedule must remain public, so she could technically find him working at nightclubs anytime she wants to.
Nah, please stop it.
About his safety. After calling multiple attorneys, none seemed very interested in helping him with this matter. Due to his fear of facing the girl in real life or even being in the same room as her, he never went through with filing a restraining order. He also worried that on the off chance she didn't have his home address, the legal process would reveal it to her. To my knowledge, there was never any follow-up with this, and it's not known if the harassment continued or what route the DJ pursued, if any. But this is one of those extreme cases of how a fan's obsession could have a very negative effect on someone's well-being and mental health.
Yeah.
In this last one, a viewer who wanted to be referred to as Christian received multiple emails that he wanted me to share in a story video. Christian has a friend named Katie who was out for a job interview. They used to be co-workers, which is how they met. Nothing was out of the ordinary until Christian started to try and contact Katie after her interview was supposed to be done, only to find that his texts weren't delivering and calls were going straight to voicemail. It was very possible that her phone could have been off or she had no cell service.
Rejected.
As hours passed and still nothing was delivering, he started to get concerned. The most likely and obvious possibility was that she lost or broke her phone, but finally, hours later, the text said delivered. However, Kate never replied.
Wow.
That same day, as Christian was checking his email, he saw an email from Katie's old work email. He opened it, and it read, "Hey, I lost my phone and keys. Can you come pick me up? I'm by some old warehouse construction-looking building in the parking lot across from a Hyatt place." Christian asked when she last had her phone, and if she had any idea how she
That's not a Katie, my guy.
"I have no idea. Just come soon, please. It's cold." The address that she then sent to better help Christian get to her said it was 20 minutes away. But looking at the location of the address on the map, it led to some abandoned-looking warehouse parking
No,
lot,
it's not
and then by
Katie,
the
fam.
green grove in
Just
the parking
pattern.
lot and decaying-looking rooftop. Christian sent another email back, demanding she go to a less sketchy pickup point. She took a few minutes to answer back with, "I'm already sitting on a bench here. I'm comfortable. Just please hurry." Christian got in his car and started following the directions to the location
Fine and coming,
About
but
halfway there, he stopped the car when he had a thought. And that was, how is she using her laptop to email him in the middle of some random parking lot by an abandoned warehouse? While it was maybe possible that there was some free optimum Wi-Fi nearby or something,
I doubt
it did seem very unlikely. This is where Christian became suspicious of the whole thing, and the fact that she was using her laptop to contact him instead of going to the hotel across the street and calling him just made it seem more suspicious. He tried calling her number a few times, and now it was ringing instead of going to voicemail. On his third try, the phone rang twice and somebody picked up for a second, though most likely on accident. By this point, Christian was suspicious all of Katie's things were stolen. He called Katie's brother to tell him about the situation and ask his opinion. But when he asked first thing, "Have you heard from Katie?" Katie's brother said she had been home for 2 hours, and that her entire backpack and phone were stolen. Christian yelled into the phone that he was being led into some sketchy parking lot at that very moment by someone who was on Katie's email, most likely on her laptop. Christian drove to Katie's house immediately to pick the two of them up, and they called her phone and left a voicemail with all three of them yelling threats of what they'd do if they didn't return the phone and laptop.
Bring it,
Probably
bitch!
went unheard if the thief didn't have her passcode. They also sent a number of texts which no one responded to. After calling the police and requesting assistance in the parking lot, a police car did show up, but the entire parking lot was abandoned as expected.
Well,
No further emails were
brilliant.
received. Kate's phone was never turned on again. It was likely disposed of. She never got any of her stuff back, but on the bright side, Christian may have avoided being lured into some kind of trap that would have led to him being robbed or harmed.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably the best thing. So now, what's it called? Unsolved Mysteries. He used to do these streams, like, not these videos years ago, so I'm looking forward to this. I have seen these videos, but obviously, the only time I've watched them is obviously the day they come out, so...
Kevin Wynn, who was 25.
Well, yeah, so I've not received them since.
In the early hours of December 9th, 2018. His family said he was kicked out of a bar called the Brass Rail on Broadway after an altercation, and that's the last they've seen or heard from him. Family, friends, and strangers have been hoping to find him or hear from him ever since. The following Sunday, nearly 150 volunteers and family members gathered at Lakeside Park to continue the search. The family searched the banks of the St. Joseph and St. Mary's rivers, and also the area around the Brass Rail. The following Thursday, they found his glasses broken in the parking lot of the bar. Kevin's family stated that his vision was very bad, and the fact that his glasses were broken and left behind was a very bad sign, and there's no way he'd be able to make his way around without seeing. Management at the bar told the family that Kevin had entered the bar 4 times the night he went missing. There's an Arby's down the road from the bar that had given the family 2 videos. They show Kevin walking by the restaurant alone, one around 1:40 in the morning, the other around 2:45 in the morning. The Brass Rail has given their surveillance video to detectives, but after 2 long years with no word, the family has become less hopeful. Many people believe he had broken his glasses and without his vision simply stumbled into the river and drowned. But if this were the case, the body would have been found during the multiple searches of the river, or at the very least, the body would have been washed up somewhere by now. In 2002, Michaela Lawrence, who was 12 at the time,
I hate
and her
these
entire
missing
family
people stories.
received news
It's
that
so
her
depressing.
father had been in a fatal car accident. His body was barely recognizable from the wreck. The family, of course, opted for a closed casket funeral. A few weeks after the funeral, things started appearing in the mailbox of the Lawrence household. Small packages with Michaela's name written on them. The packages would come once every few weeks. The first package was a small knick-knack type item. It was a decorative model glow-up Big Ben clock.
What the hell?
It was
Why
a
would you
familiar
send my man a
piece that
clock?
Michaela's mother recognized from the house somewhere. A few weeks later, another package came. This package contained an old antique stopwatch from the 50s.
Again, why would you send my man a clock?
Once again, it looked familiar to Michaela's mother. None of the packages said who they were from or where they came from. A few more weeks later, on Michaela's 13th birthday, a card in an envelope ended up in the mailbox, and written on it was Michaela's name again. The card was a happy birthday card, but once again, the mother recognized this card, and the handwriting was familiar. It was the handwriting of her thought-to-be deceased husband.
Huh?
It was a card that
What?
the couple had given to their daughter years
Se-
ago.
seriously?
It was signed Love, Mom, and Dad.
Huh?
This confirmed her suspicions that the items that had been arriving in the mail were possessions from the house, those of her husband's. She tried to check the safe in the bedroom closet to see if anything was missing, but mysteriously the safe combination no longer seemed to work no matter how many times she tried. She tried going to the police about the packages at her house, but police couldn't do anything except advise to install some kind of security system. To this day, it's not known who sent the packages or how whoever sent them got a hold of them.
Damn.
Frauke Liebs disappeared on June 20th,
Oh god, more
2006
depressing people,
in the town
missing
of
stories.
Paderborn in Germany. Her body was found almost 4 months later, on October 4th, 2006. The circumstances of her disappearance are mysterious, especially since she's believed to have
Oh,
made contact
so
with her friends
they
between
don't
her
get why,
disappearance and her
but she's
death.
dead. Alright, fair enough.
2006 was the year of the Football World Cup in Germany. Frauke met with some friends at the Old Triangle Irish pub in downtown Paderborn to watch some of the games.
England!
Mom dropped her off at the pub around 9
Coming
p.m.
home.
During the Sweden-England match, she exchanged text messages with an acquaintance until the battery of her cell phone ran out. She then borrowed the battery of her friend, but the friend said that she returned the battery before leaving. At about 11 p.m., Frauke left the bar. It's assumed that she walked home because she was said to only have about €5 on her at that point. Her flat was about 1 mile away from the pub. Nobody knows which path she took because nobody saw her after she left the pub. Her flatmate Chris claimed that she never arrived in the flat. At 12:49 a.m., her roommate received a text from Frauke, which stated that she'd be back late. She did not appear at work the following day, and after she was not in the apartment, Frauke's mother reported her missing. Over the next few days, Frauke contacted her roommate 5 times over cell phone. The calls were usually short and during the evening hours, and did not contain a lot of information about her situation. In the first calls, she hinted that she would come back soon, but answered further questions evasively or mysteriously. The last phone call was received on the evening of June 27th, while Frauke's sister was present. Frauke got asked by her sister if she was held against her will, and she supposedly said yes, but then immediately corrected herself by saying no in a louder tone. After that, the contact of Frauke was lost. According to police, during these phone calls, Frauke's cell phone was in various industrial zones of Paderborn. The police also assumed that the calls were placed from within a car that was driven to those areas. The case was never solved.
Uh-oh.
Jack Wheeler held many important positions throughout his lifetime. He was a chairman for the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund, a senior planner for Amtrak, an official of the Securities and Exchange Commission, and more. His value to his community made it much worse when Jack disappeared on December 28, 2010, after exiting an Amtrak near Wilmington, Delaware. He was later seen on December 30th at 10th and Orange Street in Wilmington. On December 31st, his body was discovered by a landfill worker as it fell onto a trash heap in the Cherry Island landfill. His death was later ruled a homicide. His death was ruled to be due to assault and blunt force trauma. It was determined that all the stops the garbage truck had made that day involved large commercial disposal bins in Newark, a few miles from Jack's home. Prior to Jack's death, he was cited several times. On December 29th, he was cited at the Newcastle County Courthouse parking garage. He was disoriented and wearing only one shoe.
What
He
the?
tried to gain access to the garage on foot, claiming that he wanted to warm up before paying the parking fee. He told the attendant that his briefcase had been stolen, and he kept claiming that he wasn't intoxicated, but the attendant didn't believe him. It was later determined that his car was in a different garage. This was the last CCTV footage taken of him. Later that day, Jack asked a pharmacist in Newcastle for a ride to Wilmington. He reportedly looked upset at the time. The pharmacist offered to call him a cab. He then left the store. On December 30th, he was seen wandering around various office buildings. Several people asked if he needed help, but he refused any assistance. This case has still never been solved.
What the hell?
Lastly, we have the disappearance of Brian Schaefer. In 2006,
Oh yay, more
Ohio State
disappearances.
student Brian Schaefer went into a bar and never came out. He was out with 2 friends one night, and they went to a bar called the Ugly Tuna Saloona. This bar had a front main entrance and a back entrance for staff and entertainment, both of which had cameras pointed at them. Around 10 p.m. that night, Brian called his girlfriend to tell her that he loved her. Soon after, Brian is seen on camera entering the bar, and then later seen stepping out of the bar to talk to two girls before going back inside. Minutes before the bar closed and they were preparing to leave, Brian told his friends he was going to talk to the band. Brian walked away out of sight and his friends waited for him, but he was never seen again. This was not a large bar, and the band does not remember talking to him. On top of it, the cameras never caught him exiting the bar. No one knows what happened to Brian after he walked away from his friends, or how he left the bar, or if he ever did for that matter.
How the hell?
An FBI agent who was specialized in facial recognition spent a long time analyzing the security footage of the bar and watched every person who came in and out of the venue. He never identified Brian leaving. But years later, after he had stopped working on the case, he was at an Ohio State football game and saw someone across the crowd that he couldn't help but think looked very much like Brian. In fact, he bore such a resemblance to Brian that the agent had to go and talk to him. It turned out it was Brian's brother, proving just how good the agent's facial recognition abilities were. Brian's girlfriend called his cell phone every day for weeks, and it always went straight to voicemail until one night when it actually rang 3 times, then went to voicemail. This was unexplainable. The truly weirdest part about this whole thing is that the last footage of Brian was him re-entering the bar. No footage was ever found of him leaving the bar, which has led to theories that he never did leave. To this day, no one knows where he is.
What the? Okay. Oh, I didn't really know what to make of that one. Right, New Year's time. Dang! No, I'm not getting copyright because you stupid adverts. Right, let's move on.
New Year's Eve is a holiday
New Year's time.
many people look forward to and use as motivation.
So 3 more left, and then we can head to some older videos now.
For many others, it's a day despised and resented. The following are 7 creepy things that happened on New Year's Eve, creating for some unsettling starts to New Year's.
7.
On New Year's Eve of 1920, the Drake Hotel in Chicago
921,
which started with elegance but ended in tragedy. The Drake was expected to be one of the city's most beautiful and elegant hotels, but it ended.
It does look nice, I can't lie.
The night a woman referred to as the Woman in Red ended her life. On this New Year's Eve day, a man and his fiancée, who was wearing a red silk gown, attended the gala held in the Drake's Gold Coast room. The man stepped away and did not return for over an hour, so his fiancée went looking for him. When she found him, he was accompanied with another woman whom he was showing attention to. The devastated woman climbed the roof and jumped to her death. Since then, guests at the Drake have reported seeing her apparition in the Gold Coast room, the Palm Court, and on the 10th floor, as well as the roof. People also still to this day allegedly report hearing a woman's cries on the 10th floor and on the roof. Some believe her soul is condemned to replay her final night, attempting to find peace with the final tragic chapter of her life. Workers and guests have also on numerous occasions reported getting a creepy, uncomfortable feeling in the ballroom.
Huh?
On New Year's Eve
what the hell?
2013, a man named Joseph Scott was hosting a house party among his close friends. The party was going normal until
I like the music, can't lie.
Started asking Joe about the sounds coming from the ceiling. The party was being held in the living room, and the attic was right above the living room. Joseph went to the bedroom which had the attic door inside of it and pulled the attic door down. He did this without telling anyone so as to not make any of the guests uncomfortable. But after multiple comments about the noise, he couldn't just ignore it and have that lingering in his head.
Yeah,
upon checking
that
the
might
attic,
help.
Joseph heard a loud, distinct cracking sound from the other side, behind a wooden wall. He thought there might have been a raccoon there, so he walked across the wooden boards of the attic, hearing his intoxicated friends down below in the living room laughing, asking, "What the hell is that noise?" When he got to the back section of the attic, which according to the layout was directly on top of the front door area of the living room, he saw somebody's hands wrapped around the top of a box.
What
Their body wasn't visible. Joseph screamed as he was startled, but then he quickly assumed it was one of his friends. He went closer, and somebody who he didn't know popped their head out from behind the box. A middle-aged, angry-looking man. Joseph
you got games on your phone and it just runs off.
The attic yelling for his friends. He and his guy friends waited by the attic door guarding it while they waited for the police. Police were able to remove the man from the attic with ease. He was unarmed. The man didn't know anyone at the party, and he admitted to simply walking in during the party. He claimed he meant no wrongdoing. However, it's pretty likely he was planning on robbing the place when everyone was gone, or possibly worse. Similarly, with this one we have another party crashing type of story, as yet another uninvited guest somehow finds themselves in a random party, Only with this one, the guests seemed to have materialized out of nowhere and joined the storyteller's New Year's Eve party. There was an older woman dressed in all white who was seen by most of the partygoers. All of the doors and windows were locked, and no one admitted to letting the old woman into the house. Being in a polite and festive mood, the hostess did not ask the lady in white to leave, but according to multiple party guests, the woman reported that she was lost and couldn't find the party she was actually heading to. Upon leaving the party, she dropped 2 scarves on the doorstep. To this day, nobody that was there at that party knows how she got in. To add to this mystery, the writer adds that her cousin saw the same woman.
What the hell? That is one beautiful image. I'm joking away.
In his dreams a few nights later. No one ever saw her again.
That is one ugly image. Jesus Christ.
This one was recounted by a young woman and her boyfriend. The two were cleaning up the boyfriend's place, getting ready to have people over for New Year's Eve. As the couple was cleaning, they kept losing things and finding them back in the same place.
Why are you losing things, brother?
The couple thought that they were just imagining it at first, or that the other was moving the objects without them seeing. But it kept happening over and over, and every time they needed something, it would disappear. Eventually, company starts to arrive.
Hey, that's not my TV remote.
First, and the three sit down and watch TV. That's when the boyfriend
TV remote.
And in return, an unknown man's voice said, "Right." The three of them looked around to see if the boyfriend's roommates had returned, but no one was there. Later, when the roommates did return, they told the couple and Carson that they had been hearing the same thing since the night of the recently passed eclipse. A while later, the woman went to the bathroom, and as she was washing her hands, she heard a loud cough right behind her ear. All of the hairs on her neck stood up as she ran out of there. At first, no one believed her, but when the rest of their company arrived, and they too eventually said that they heard a cough in the bathroom as well, it's not hard to tell why everyone believed her after that. The woman heard a cough in the bathroom one more time.
Hold on, we'll just pause it. Just try and turn this around, see if you can see him. Look, you can see he's here. Hello? Hello? You want to say hello to the audience? Hey? Oh, he's going to lie down, bless him. You can just see his, you see his, you can see, I think you can see him now. You can just about see his ear, you can just about see his head. Yeah, you can just about see his head. So, yeah, my mum just opened my door so to let him in.
The next morning, but didn't hear anything again for a whole year, leading her to believe the strange occurrences only happen around the holidays. The Monte Vista Hotel in Flagstaff, Arizona, opened on New Year's Day of 1927, and during the 1940s and 50s was a popular spot for Hollywood guests, and more than 100 Western movies were filmed nearby. Some of the guests of the hotel included Bing Crosby, Jane Russell, Gary Cooper, Spencer Tracy, and many others. There are many stories and legends of ghosts in this hotel, one of the more notable ones being the Phantom Bellboy, who knocks on doors and then vanishes. There have been dozens of guests over the years reporting that somebody would knock on their doors, then when they open them, nobody would be there. Alongside the bellboy is often what is believed to be a woman who has been seen multiple times outside of the suite that author Zane Grey stayed in, which, as it turns out, is a room in which 2 prostitutes had been murdered long ago. But there's more with this hotel. Multiple guests who have stayed in the room that actor Gary Cooper stayed in have reported hearing a man coughing and clearing his throat, pacing back and forth. Many guests have reported feeling unnerved by the distinct feeling that someone is watching them in that room. One of the last more notable paranormal phenomenons that have been reported in the hotel comes from the saloon.
Just crap my toe.
People believe a former bank robber haunts the saloon, as again, multiple guests have heard a voice and sounds from people who weren't there, and report an uneasy feeling of being watched. Ellen Roberts, a hotel desk clerk, reported that in 1970, 3 men robbed a nearby bank, and to celebrate, stopped in our lounge for a drink, even though one of the men had been shot during their escape. While having his drink, the wounded man died, and some believe that he is the spirit that's haunting this area of the building. The hotel remains open to this day, and many people visit in hopes of encountering some paranormal activity. On New Year's Eve 1997, 2 friends Olivia Hope and Ben Smart were celebrating New Year's Eve and ran into trouble after the rental yacht that they planned to sleep on was overcrowded. They located a water taxi still operating and got on. Sharing the ride with them was a man who learned that they had nowhere to sleep and offered to let them stay on his boat. As this was their only real option, they accepted, and the taxi took them to the man's yacht. They climbed aboard the stranger's boat between 4 and 5 a.m. After that, the two friends were never seen again. The police conducted an investigation, and despite a number of witnesses describing the same man and the same two-masted sailing boat, they focused on a man with a smaller boat named Scott Watson. Where this crime case went from there has been a source of controversy ever since. Police are confident they got the man responsible for Ben and Olivia's disappearances and likely murders, but even 2 decades later, the mystery around this case remains.
Big up all these.
What?
Big,
I'm not playing these games.
We got big names.
Pattern.
On New Year's Eve of 2017, a group of friends had went on a camping trip to the Acadia National Park in Maine. They had been planning a New Year's camping trip for a long time, and it finally came to fruition. The 6 friends were separated into 3 different tents. They set up camp on a riverbank and set up their portable barbecue and campfire. The group had also come prepared with a bunch of fireworks to shoot off at midnight. For a majority of their time at the campsite, the friends had music blasting on their portable speaker and were drinking tequila. As the group got more intoxicated and louder, one of the friends told everyone to quiet down for a second and lowered the music because he thought he could hear something in the woods. While the group was quiet, they heard it. It was this long and slow whistling sound that would echo every few seconds. One suggested it was an animal, one suggested it was someone whistling, and one suggested it was a literal whistle.
I would suggest just shut up and let's go.
When they were quiet for long enough, the sound stopped. Eventually, the group resumed playing their music and drinking their drinks. When midnight came, the group began to shoot off their fireworks one at a time. After maybe 4 or 5 fireworks exploding, a blood-curdling scream came from the woods. The screams continued on and on. The group stopped shooting their fireworks and all jumped into their tents to hide, completely freaked out. The screaming stopped, but 3 of the 6 said they heard footsteps approach the campsite. And through the tent walls, reflecting through the glow of the campfire, they could see a very tall, hunched-over figure ruling out the possibility of some small animal making the screaming sounds. It didn't stay long, though. It disappeared along with the footsteps back into the woods. The group was so terrified they all communicated through their tents, not wanting
Get
to
your
leave.
ass out of
They were
there.
simply too scared to even take the time to pack up and leave. They waited it out until the sun began to rise. Then the group packed up and they were on their way. Not the most desirable experience to start a new year.
What you think? Right, Christmas time. Right, got 3 movies, bad boys, to watch, and want to watch some older ones, and then I'll pretty much be it. The stream will be a bit like 2 hours, like between 2 hours and 2 hours and 30 minutes. That'll be like 2 hours and 30 is the limit. We'll go for here.
It was a cold December night a week before Christmas.
Ho
My
ho
family
ho.
always does Christmas in our Hamptons, New York summer house. The Hamptons are always quiet this time of year, as a large chunk of the real estate there is owned by rich people who have 2 or 3 other houses elsewhere in the country. My dad and I were at the house first before the rest of my family, as my mom and sister still had work until the next weekend. My dad was retired at the time, and school was over for winter break for me, so we wanted to just go to the Hamptons house early. We all have our own bedrooms in this house, which sits on a quiet dead-end road. My dad turned on the heat and water and all that stuff that he always has to take care of when we return for the first time in months. I brought my PS3 to play in my room. I spent most of
PS3.
the first day there playing
No,
video
but I've got
games.
PS4, so
On that first night
you know
we
who
were there,
cares.
there was a big snowstorm. Another reason we wanted to come early, to beat the crappy road conditions that would come for 2 days after the storm. The next morning when I woke up and went into the kitchen, my dad asked me when I built the snowman. I responded, "What do you mean?" He said the snowman in the backyard. I went to look out the window.
What are you talking about?
2 feet of fresh snow. But there was also a snowman sitting in our backyard.
Yo, that's actually
It had
more
2
creepy
sticks
than it
for
looks.
arms angled up into the air, and it had eyes and a smile carved into the head. The eyes and mouth side was facing the window. I said to my dad, "I didn't build that." My dad laughed and said, "Must be the neighbor kids." My dad thought it was an innocent joke. So I did as well.
Very funny, innit?
The next night is where things got bad, though. I was in bed asleep and suddenly woke up to a distinct thump on my window. I was terrified. I pulled the blankets over myself to hide, to not be in view of whoever might be out there. But after 5 minutes, I started to wonder maybe it was snow that fell off the roof and blew into the window. I got up to peek out the window. I screamed, because at first I thought what I saw was a person, but it was actually another snowman standing right outside my window. There was an angry frown on this one instead of a smiling face. I screamed for my dad, and he came rushing inside. I pointed at the window, and this time he wasn't happy. He said he would go next door in the morning and talk to the kids' parents. I slept in my sister's room the rest of that night. The next morning, my dad went next door and rang the bell, but they weren't home. There were no cars in the driveway. That meant they weren't even in town.
God damn!
That was the only nearby house with kids in it, so this didn't exactly help explain the situation. For 5 or 6 days straight, nothing else happened until Christmas Eve night. The rest of our immediate family, plus all 4 of our grandparents, were now in the house. We were in the living room. This was before dinner, but
If you want to know what I'm trying to do, I'm just trying to connect my
instead of using the doorbell.
this Switch control to this, so I could use it for future Epic War videos.
I started to get nervous.
Because I'll be shooting for a bit, so.
And asked, "Who is it?" Someone on the other side of the door started saying, "Please let me in. I need help."
Let me in. I need assistance, brother.
Nor are there any windows that would allow us to see who was on the other side of the door. My dad asked what's wrong, and the voice on the other side said, "I have no one to spend Christmas with. Please help me." We all looked at each other now.
Are you taking a
My
piece,
dad
brother?
yelled to please leave before we call the police. The person on the other side said, "Okay, I'll leave. Please don't call the police." He never opened the door. We instantly tied this to the creepy snowman. We knew it had to be connected. And we were right. On Christmas morning, there was a note taped to our front door. It said, "To the best of my memory, I just wanted to have a little fun. I built the snowman for the boy in the house. I don't have anyone to spend the holiday with. Hurt." In one way or another, I think whoever left that note on our door and built those 2 snowmen was mentally ill or unstable. It's very unlikely that it was meant to be a joke, considering he came to our front door. I think he was dangerous, and even if he wasn't inherently hostile, the fact that he did what he did is just enough for him to be considered somebody none of us wanted to meet.
Oh, you've got to be joking. I'm not playing these games.
It was Christmas of 2016. My name is Andre. And
Hi,
at the time,
Andre.
I was 21 years old. Our family was all at our Uncle Joshua's place for the holidays. Well, it was Christmas Eve. My immediate family, plus my cousins and other close family, decided, let's go to my uncle and aunt's place in downtown Miami. We come from Connecticut, so we're not used to warm weather around the holidays. It was Friday, the day before Christmas Eve. My brother Nico and I, being young single males and being in Miami, wanted to go out. We were hearing about a bunch of Christmas-themed parties going on at clubs and bars.
Hey, I'm not playing these games.
He was 18 at the time, but he had a fake ID, so we figured he'd be all right. We went to this one club.
Why is my computer frozen again?
Christmas-themed event. Mostly everyone online was wearing Santa hats, so it felt festive. But it was all a waste of time because at the front of the line, the bouncer not only told us it would be $100 to get in, but he also called Nico out on his fake ID. So we tried a bar not too far away, and we got into this one. There were some people wearing Santa hats here too. I guess that was expected on the weekend of Christmas. While we were at the bar, this older woman started talking to Nico. I overheard most of their conversation. The woman appeared to be mid-40s, and I heard her keep telling my brother how she has such a thing for younger guys with
No, please don't.
To be honest, it sounded kind of creepy and weird, but Nico was probably blinded by the fact that a woman was hitting on him. I just let him do his thing. The woman was wearing a blue Santa hat and had on this sexually provocative Christmas sweater. The 2 of them were talking for so long that I ended up making friends with the guy sitting next to me at the bar. And suddenly Nico patted me on my shoulder and said he's gonna leave.
God damn!
I told him
Frozen again.
I was happy for him, I guess.
I hate this PC sometimes.
And I just called an Uber back to my uncle's, assuming Nico would be spending the night with the woman. I was mid-Uber ride when my phone rang. Nico was calling me. I picked up to static. It sounded as though maybe he pocket dialed me, but I heard a male's voice in the background that didn't sound like my brother. And then suddenly another male's voice could be heard yelling. I said Nico's name over and over, trying for acknowledgement, but the call eventually disconnected. Obviously, this was a pretty concerning phone call. I was under the impression he was alone with the woman. I tried calling him like 10 times, and finally someone picked up. But it wasn't Nico. It was the voice of some older man with an extremely deep voice. When I asked who this was, he said he found his phone on the sidewalk. I asked him if he could drop the phone off at my uncle's place or if he could meet me somewhere. He didn't answer that.
Oi!
I just heard talking in the background, and then I heard screaming. It was Nico's voice in the background, screaming my name, screaming help. Then the call disconnected.
My computer is frozen again. What the hell? It did this not that long ago.
It was late. No one was picking up. I explained the situation to the driver, and he advised I call the police immediately. That's what I did. The police came to my uncle's place,
Wow.
where I woke my family up, informing them that Nico was in trouble. I had to give my best description of the woman's appearance from the bar and what time he left the bar. Then my dad and I, along with the police, went to the bar that we were at. It was then that I got a phone call from a random number. It was Nico. He was out of breath, gasping into the phone, explaining that he was kidnapped and barely escaped. He was currently using a stranger's phone. All of us went to Nico's location, which was a sketchy street somewhere in North Miami. When we found him, his face was a bloody mess. He had 2 black eyes, and all of his possessions that he had on him were stolen. He gave his whole story. He left with the woman who claimed to have called an Uber or Lyft. The alleged ride arrived at their pickup point, which was in some quiet back alley area. Nico found out once inside the car that it wasn't in fact an Uber. It was a trap. There were 2 men in the car who immediately held him down and threatened to shoot him if he didn't keep quiet. They started to drive for a while. And during this time,
I am paying attention.
one
It
of the men
just
called my number.
distracted me at the
They
moment.
threatened to harm him if he yelled out anything, which he did. And that explained the bloody face and black eyes. They broke his phone, took his wallet, keys, and whatever else was on him. As the car was stopped and he wasn't being held down anymore, he ran for it out of the car. They didn't chase him. The car just sped off and disappeared. He said he believed they were going to kill him and dump his body somewhere if he didn't run. Police apparently were never able to identify the woman who appeared in the video footage for the bar. Nico said none of the men were wearing masks, more of a reason he thought they'd kill him. This completely ruined the entire holiday weekend, but we were all just happy he was alive. On Christmas night, we were all awoken to Nico's screams in the middle of the night. He was screaming, "She's in the house." I woke him up from whatever nightmare he was having. I have to say though, him screaming, "She's in the house," made me think back to her creepy smile. It made me sleep with one eye open that night.
You see, this is broken.
I bought a small house with my brother George a couple years back.
There you
Hosted
go.
Christmas the first year we lived in the house, just as a way of
Oh,
getting the
son of a-
and getting everyone together for the first time in forever. We don't have the biggest family in the world, so it was the 2 of us, our parents, our aunt and uncle, cousin, and our sister and 2 nephews. Our sister came with our nephews and her husband first to help us out with the cooking and preparing. They brought their dog Mika along as well. Since they lived 2 hours away, they were going to be spending the night at our house. The rest of our family lives under an hour away, so they wouldn't be staying. Not that that house would have much more room for additional people staying over anyway. During our Christmas dinner, at one point we talked about some of the murders that happened.
Oh yeah, that's what you would do on Christmas Day. Talk about murders.
It wasn't a topic that we kept going long, as our mom and my sister wanted us to drop it for the sake of the holiday and the kids. After dinner, we all had some wine in the living room with a Christmas movie on in the background as we talked. After a few hours, the family started to slowly leave, until it was just my brother and I, and my sister, her husband, and her kids. The kids went to bed before us. The 4 of us stayed up later having more wine. My girlfriend ended up coming over past 10 to spend the rest of the night with me, since all of her family had gone home. Eventually, Christmas night was over, and it was time to go to bed.
Ho ho.
I woke up to my girlfriend shaking me. The room was still dark. I groggily looked at the clock next to my bed. It said 2-something a.m.
Yo.
I asked my girlfriend what the issue was.
What is
She
up with
whispered,
ya?
"Listen." I listened and heard Mika out in the hall growling. I got out of bed and entered the hall to see what was going on. Then I saw that the back door to our house was wide open, and a breeze of cold air started to hit me in the face. Mika was looking out the door. I checked if anyone was out there, and as I was at the back door, I heard my brother's voice call out my name for the darkness outside. He sounded like he was far away in the woods. I was worried he was in trouble or needed help with something. I went back to my room to tell my girlfriend as I put my shoes and coat on. I stepped outside with a flashlight. There was a light dusting of snow on the ground, enough to see footmarks leading from the back door down to the back deck towards the woods. I yelled back George's name very loudly. I heard his voice call back my name. It was confirmed he was in the woods now, but But oddly, as I entered the woods, his footprints slowly faded and got harder to see until they were just impossible to continue following entirely. I screamed back at the top of my lungs, "Where are you? What's wrong?"
Where are you, bud?
And once again,
I'm not
heard
playing these
George's voice
games.
call back just my name. Every time he called me, his voice was the same distance away. I calling George's phone, but he didn't pick up. I continued a little further into the woods, but now George's yelling stopped. As much as I yelled out into the woods, there was dead silence. Not even the sound of a bug in the freezing cold. Just the sound of the light breeze. And suddenly my phone rang. I was hopeful it was George. It was my girlfriend. I picked up, and she said, "Chet, George is in his bedroom right now."
What?
I said. That didn't make any sense. I was hearing his voice this entire time in the woods. I asked her to check if my sister's husband was also still on one of the pull-out couches. And 30 seconds later, she said yes. Suddenly, I felt like I wasn't alone in the woods. Like anyone was about to grab me
God
from every
dang!
direction. I turned back the way I came and started running as fast as I could. I didn't stop until
Yeah,
I
just
saw the
peg
backyard
it,
light
peg
in
it,
my
bro.
house becoming more visible through the trees. I made it back to my house, and everyone was awake now. George and everyone else had a look of horror on their faces when I explained that Mika was growling, looking at the wide open back door, and the fact that there were footprints leading into the woods. But the scariest part was that I thought for sure that the voice I was hearing was that of George, and whoever it was knew my name. We contemplated calling the police for half an hour, and then ended up doing so. A police officer came and just asked us any questions like if anything was stolen, if we know anyone that may mean us harm, etc. Then within half an hour, and after telling us to call back if anything else happens, he left. I don't know if I think this had anything to do with the murders that were going on at this time in our county, but I did think it was worth mentioning in the story. Nothing else did ever happen after that night, but we can't for the life of us logically explain any of this. I'm still scared to go in or near the woods past dark.
I ain't going in the woods, period. Right, next one. Freaky photo camera stories. Oh, I'm not doing that. Nope, didn't mean to do that. Boom. There you go.
This first one was submitted by viewer Trent Leons, and when this was recorded, he and his family had recently moved into his grandparents' house. The house is in the middle of nowhere, so the family naturally had their guard down. However, one night at 1 in the morning, while most of the family was asleep, Trent got a notification for a ring that there was motion at the front door. A notification for movement wasn't a concern as the family has outdoor cats that are active at night, but there was definitely reason for concern when it said somebody is at your front door. One of the family members grabbed a gun and went to open the front door, and that's where he started to raise his hands and started asking for help.
What the hell? Who's that?
Help.
Help.
Can I use a phone to call Dad?
He asked to use a phone, to which the family gave him a cell phone, and with it he tried calling someone, but to no avail.
No problem. Yep.
He then proceeded to start walking off down the road. As the guy was walking down the road, two of the family members decided to hop in their truck and find out where he was going. And they found him walking down the road and looking like he was going to another house down the road, the nearest one being half a mile away. The two family members decided they didn't want him near their house or any neighboring houses, so they offered he get in the bed of the truck and they'd drive him into town. And about a couple minutes later, they arrived in town and dropped him off. The whole time he had his hands up and kept looking at the two family members while he backed away from the truck. It could have been assumed that the man was genuinely looking for help and needed to call someone, if it weren't for the fact that other family members reported that the week prior, he was in another neighborhood around the area, allegedly asking for help again, in late hours of the night, going from door to door in dimly lit areas. It's quite possible that he may have been trying to maliciously gain entry into the homes of sympathetic or unsuspecting people. It's unknown if that's the case or if he was ever successful. This one was posted by a Redditor named T-Course, and there aren't as many details on this one, other than it happened in a small suburb late on a rainy night. This was way past solicitation or visiting hours. The homeowner wasn't home at the time and saw the notification the next day, which is when they saw this video footage. From the darkness appears a middle-aged woman with an umbrella, with her mouth gaping wide open. She stands there for
what the hell?
seconds after ringing the bell, the whole time with her mouth eerily wide open, aside from closing it for a couple seconds, showing that her mouth didn't appear to be stuck in this hanging open position.
Yeah.
She tries the doorbell or another button one more time before walking away and disappearing into the darkness.
Bye, brother.
The homeowner says he didn't recognize this woman at all. Some people believe it was some kind of condition the woman was suffering. Whether it was or not,
that is one weird.
Explain why she was ringing a stranger's doorbell in the late hours of the night. Perhaps another encounter that a homeowner was lucky to avoid. This footage was captured as a homeowner was entering her house after just getting home. The woman lives in a suburban town in Illinois.
Bloody hell! Is my man coming to save the day, or is he not?
The woman in the video was unaware of the fact that she was being watched from the distance by two people hiding in the dark, waiting for her to open her front door. As she steps into her house, the two aggressors take their chance to enter the house while the door is still open.
Here.
The woman screams as she's startled by the unwelcome visitor behind her. The first of the two teens to enter the house says, "Don't move and don't scream." The rest of what is said between he and the woman is inaudible. However, according to the woman in the video, he demanded her car keys. After handing him her keys, which can be seen in one of the teenager's hands, the two take off towards her car, which they then steal. There was someone else in the house with the woman who was also held at gunpoint alongside her. He also remains nameless. The woman wasn't harmed, thankfully, and one of the two teenage aggressors were found and arrested, 18-year-old Brendan McCrew. The other aggressor has still yet to be identified. This video is a prime example of why you should always be aware of your surroundings before opening your front door. This past July in 2021, this disturbing footage caught on a couple's Ring doorbell camera surfaced on the web. In the footage, a tattooed man with a long gray beard holding a plastic bag, apparently talking to himself, approached the front door of the couple's house. The man in the video apparently spotted the unnamed wife inside of the house through the kitchen window, approached the front door, where he repeatedly started saying, "Are you sure? Are you positive? I just have a few questions."
You shut your stupid ass up.
Are you sure?
Yes, man, sure. Shut up and get off man's
I just
property.
rang your doorbell because I have a couple questions for you.
Fam, what do you think this is, a Q&A?
Are you sure?
Fam, I'm not saying are you sure 5 times.
Rang your doorbell
Back her
because I
off.
have a couple
I'm not
questions.
playing these games.
Are you sure?
You're starting to piss man off now.
What? Are you sure?
You're testing me patience. I'm not playing these games.
Because I have a couple questions for you.
What do you think this is, a Q&A?
Are you positive?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
I just have a couple questions.
That's nice. Damn.
Are you sure?
He's starting to piss me off.
I just have a couple questions for you.
That's nice.
Are you sure?
That's nice.
Are you positive?
Yes, I'm positive.
Are you sure?
Back her off.
Absolutely certain.
Jesus.
The wife said she never responded to the man. She simply hid in her home and called 911.
Yeah.
The man was standing there, knocking on the glass, repeating the same 3 things over and over to nobody. Her husband, who was not at the home at the time, accessed the intercom system and asked the man who he was as he was walking away. This caused him to come back, look into the camera, and start saying some pretty nasty, disturbing things.
Nasty.
Sure.
Are you sure? Are you positive? Are you addicted?
What? Yeah? Are you sure?
Who are you?
Yeah, I just had a couple questions. I just wanted to ask you about making sure. Yeah, can you hear me?
What do you think this is? A Q&A, brother?
What I'm looking for is the girl.
I'm looking for you to shut up.
Because I'm wondering.
You're starting to test my patience. That's nice. A knife? Man, I'll bust our shank. You do
He
not
was saying
pattern.
he managed to rape and kill her, and asked if she could open the door multiple times. After one more unsuccessful knock, the man walked away, talking to himself in different voices as he did. Police found and arrested the man the next day after another report of a suspicious man in the area, and he was identified as 40-year-old Christopher Sumps, a fugitive from California.
Oh, isn't that lovely?
This footage was captured in Bristol and shows a man approach and knock on Kathleen Frascarelli's door. That in of itself isn't so disturbing, but it's the fact that it was very late on a Sunday night, and the image she saw on her phone was of a masked person on the other side of the door.
Oh, not again.
The fact that it was late
No,
on a Sunday
don't do
night,
this again.
and that the image she saw on the phone was of a masked person on the other side of the door is enough to give someone pause.
Oops, no, we moved it. Can I not refresh, or what the hell's happening? Yeah, he's frozen again. God! Well,
While playing back the video footage, Kathleen, the homeowner, noticed that the masked person tried opening the door at first, but thankfully it was locked. She described the mask as having this grotesque smile that never went away, and still hasn't gone away from her memory. The person knocks and then stands at the door for 15 seconds. Afterwards, the camera catches them pulling their sleeve over their hand, then wiping away their fingerprints for the doorknob they tried to open when they first walked up to the house. The fact that they wiped away their fingerprints already says that they were up to no good.
yeah,
If
it
everything
doesn't
else about
really
this
give off a
kid
good
already
sign.
proved that. Kathleen stated that he had something heavy in his sweatshirt pocket, but she doesn't know what it was. A neighbor who saw the person leaving said he had a bag that he was carrying with him, so God knows what was in there. By the time Kathleen made it downstairs, the person was already in a car parked across the street, which they sped off in. Footage like this is really the scariest because nobody knows how these encounters would have gone down if the doors were opened.
Right, we have finally made it, ladies and gentlemen. The last video the last video the last video that we've not watched yet, and then we'll be all caught up. But my PC's frozen again. Yeah, I'll have to sort out that control in a bit. Because basically what I was trying to do, I was trying to use because I have a switch plug controller down there. And I was trying to see if it would work so I could use my helpers and PC might be good. So they're not useless. Well, they're not useless anyway. They just give me something to talk to while I'm doing it, which is fair enough. But I feel like it's about time that we should improve what we're doing now. Even though I might be a bit slow because I obviously have to help them with it, but I feel like that'll be better than them doing nothing. Because I feel like most people at some point will say, "There's no point in them being in the video then." So that's what I've been trying to do. But I'll try to do that afterwards because obviously it'd be stupid to do it during a video. But
the only competition it has is itself.
As an
I'm not playing these games. My computer's frozen again. It did this in the episode, when me and Fizzy Michael built the musical steps from the beginning. Oh, Bill, do you want to get out? Wait. Okay, this is the last video we're gonna watch in terms of new videos. Going. Bye bye. Nice to see you later.
I
My
worked at a
bum.
game development company in Orlando, Florida. It was a stressful couple of weeks for me, and I was really pressed for time before a game's deadline. So I had to stay at the office late almost every night that week.
Dang!
It was a rainy Wednesday night of that week. It was completely pitch black outside, with the occasional strike of lightning lighting up the place. And the sound of the rain pouring on my office window was helping me concentrate on my coding.
Oh yeah.
There was one other person.
I'm just gonna go stretch my legs for a
My
minute.
coworker,
I'm
Chaz.
just gonna walk around the room.
He was finishing
I've
up
been
on
talking
his
for 2
work
hours
as
now.
well. He was also pressed for time with a strict deadline. By now, it was easily between 8 and 9 o'clock, and Chaz knocked on my office door before telling me he was heading out. He asked if I was okay locking up the place, and I told him of course. Then he was off on his merry way.
I'm gonna watch
The front door of our
this
company's
video,
office
and then I'll
outside
make a
my
cup of
head.
tea, and then we'll watch
With
more
that, I
videos.
was alone.
Because I'm trying to shoot
Our
it for as
entire
long as I
office is
possibly
in the
can.
shape of an L. The entrance is at
Honestly,
one
this
end.
has already been
My office
the
is down
longest
the
shoot I've
short
done in
line of the
modern
L,
day.
basically the corner
Recently,
office.
anyway.
I had to keep myself awake as I was starting to doze off, so I went down the hall to the kitchen to heat up some coffee. Just a little bit, enough to keep me going for another hour. I leaned on the counter by the coffee maker, waiting for it to heat up, when I heard this. The sound of the
Hey
door closing.
yo!
I peeked my head out.
Why
into the
does
hall
it
to look
keep
and see
freezing
if
on me every time I search up my YouTube history? God damn!
The door sounded like one of the smaller private office doors, not the heavier front door to the entire office. I left the
I'm
kitchen
gonna
to walk
try
down
and
the two
shut,
halls,
force it,
trying all
shut
the
it
doors,
down for a
which were
minute.
locked.
I don't think
Then I
it'll
got to
work.
my little hall, and all 3 doors in this hall were shut, including mine. I left that door open 1000%, and there was no draft in here, as all the windows were closed. I felt like someone had to still be in the office pranking me. I opened my office door with force, expecting someone to be in there jumping out at me, but no. My office was how I left it. The chair, my computer, everything. It was just a little odd to me that the door closed on its own because it had never done that. But I moved past it and continued my work. The rain continued to hit the window, and the lightning continued to strike about once every minute, startling me a few times actually. Some more time passed. It was now getting very late to still be in the office. I was content with the progress I made, so I saved all of my work and began.
How many of you didn't save it? I'll be more scary than this
Clicked the
story.
shutdown button.
Damn!
And turned off the screen. The screen went black, and then I saw it. In the reflection of the computer screen, I saw behind myself a woman standing there. I don't know how I didn't jump or scream, but I felt my heart drop into my stomach. I didn't turn around. I just got up from my desk, calmly grabbed my bag, pretending not to have noticed, and walked to the door. I didn't look back to shut the door or anything. I walked down the hall.
You've got to be joking me.
And I booked it out the exit of the entire office. I then ran down the flight of stairs to the first floor, then out to my car in the lane. The whole time I was terrified I was being followed, or that she would grab me any second, whoever it was. Once I got in my car, I took a second to breathe. Then I looked up at the window to my office. The light was still on in there, but I'm quite sure I saw a small kink in the blinds, as if someone were on the other side, looking down at me. I called one of my bosses, Miranda, at once, and she confirmed no one else should have been there. She said she'd call the night security guy and ask him to check the office. Luckily, I got to go the hell home. Later that night, Miranda called me and said the security guy was in the office but didn't see anyone. I told her what I saw one more time, and it freaked even her out. There's only one camera in our entire office, and it's at the end of the longer hall by the kitchen area. The camera footage never caught any woman walking around the office that night.
Why? Just why? I'm not playing these games.
A long time ago, I did security work in an office building in Midtown Manhattan. It was mid-November, so one of the offices was looking to start decorating their office space with Christmas decorations, which were held in the basement along with other storage. I usually stood in the lobby area of the building just as general security. It was usually an uneventful job for the most part. On this cold November Monday, my view of this job changed entirely. An employee of this dermatology office on one of the upper levels of the building apparently had gone down to the basement and had reported that all the lights were out and that the elevator wasn't running to the basement floor. This sounded like the electrician's job until I was also told that there were multiple broken-in doors down there.
No, brilliant.
That's when it became my job to go down there and investigate.
No, I don't think I've watched that one actually, so I think we'll just react to these. And then, if we have time, we'll watch some more.
Security guard on duty that day. I took a flashlight with me down there since the power was out. I'd be lying if I said this wasn't nerve-wracking going down there alone. On this level was just storage, electrical components, and janitorial.
Oh my god, why isn't this working?
Corridors with different rooms. And navigating this
I'm
in the
starting
dark,
to get
nothing
really
but a
annoyed.
flashlight was making the hairs on my body stand up. There were different doors in the corridors, which would lead to different storage rooms for many of the different businesses that rented office spaces in the building. And the call turned out to be true. Many of these doors were bashed in. Some of them were so badly damaged that they looked like they were destroyed with an axe. This was more serious than I thought.
So I just hit this in the
As a
background.
security guard, I didn't make enough money to go searching for potentially dangerous people in the basement without a gun. I looked into each room with broken down doors, but each room still seemed to be full with supplies. I couldn't find any trace of theft, but someone clearly came down here with a purpose. I continued looking into the rooms, just peeking in for a second with my flashlight. Then I heard a slam elsewhere in the basement. And suddenly everything went dead silent. The basement noises I was hearing before, from whatever they may have been coming from, a boiler, the pipes, whatever it was, stopped. And I was now in a dead silent basement where I could hear every last sound. Every footstep I took now sounded 10 times louder. Someone was in the basement still, evident by that slam. It may have been another door. It may have been whatever caused the noises to stop. Stupidly, I called out, "Anyone here?" and my voice echoed down the corridor. I continued slowly back the way I came. I wasn't staying down there another moment.
You got to be
This was a job
joking.
for NYPD at this point. I was almost to the stairs when I heard this heavy breathing coming up from around the final corner. I instantly knew it to be heavy breathing. I was scared shitless. Why was I put in this situation? I turned off my flashlight and tiptoed just a little closer to look around the corner.
Shut your ass up.
Weirdly, the breathing stopped. I said one hello, then turned the flashlight back on. Even though the
Oh
light wasn't
god,
aimed
why are they
exactly in
making
that
noise?
direction,
God's sake.
I still easily saw this extremely tall, hunched over figure facing the wall with some kind of long object that could have been a weapon in his hand. I say his because there was no way a person this big and this stature could have been a woman. I also saw their face turn in reaction to the light. It was this pale, abnormally long face. I think they were bald. Another reason I say it was a man, but I didn't look too long. I ran past
Yeah,
the
there
figure
you
to the
go.
stairs, screaming back at him.
Thank God for that. No, I'm not restoring these pages. I'm not going for this crap again.
Through the basement door, then locked it and called 911. A bunch of NYPD cars came, and it was a big thing. At least 4 police officers went down there. I felt pretty useless, I have to say, but removing a dangerous, armed, giant human from the basement with the lights off was not in my job description.
Nah, you cannot do that to me.
Officers came back, alone. They didn't have that person I
Damn!
saw with them. They couldn't find him. One of the building's electricians came to fix the electrical issues in the basement. It had something to do with the circuit box in the basement being tampered with. With the lights back on, police still couldn't find anyone down there. There are multiple stairways back upstairs from the basement, which he may have left through. Everyone believed what I saw, though. Those doors didn't smash themselves open. I took sick days the next few days, and every night for a week, I'd lay awake, constantly checking around my room in the dark, scared I'd see some giant figure standing in one of the corners. I held my first job ever in 2002, and I worked at a call center during the graveyard shift. The office was in Makati, and it was a new site. The office layout was kind of in an elongated donut shape, with the donut hole being the elevator lobby / main doors, and the actual office space composed of 2 long hallways and 2 shorter ones. It was also a new site, so only half the office was finished, and the other half was still under renovation. So one long half of the donut was a fully operational production floor with managers' offices and a pantry, while the other long half was reserved for things like conference rooms, a nurse's office, storage, other admin stuff, restrooms, etc. And it was all unfinished. The conference room still had concrete floors, and wires were still sticking out from sockets and all that. While the production half was nice and bright and well lit, as any call center should be, the other half was only partially lit. To make matters worse, the guards would turn off the lights completely on that side, since they figured nobody was using it anyway. As a result, people didn't really hang out on that side of the office, and if you needed to use the restroom, you just kind of had to make a mad dash to and from it. 2 weeks into production, and my teammate, who was obviously very sickly to begin with, had a terrible migraine, and I suggested that she tell our team leader about it so that she could take a break. TL then told her to go visit the nurse's office, located in the unfinished half of the office, something we figured out only because of the sign above the door that we see whenever we go to the restroom. I was to accompany her, so that's what we did. We walked to the nurse's office, but found that the door was locked and nobody was inside, even though the
Oh,
lights were on.
brilliant.
The door was the type with one of those vertical window panels on it, so we peeked in to make sure nobody was in there. We saw all the medical equipment and a sick bed, a desk, basically everything you'd expect to find in there, except the nurse. Maybe he or she just went on break. We decided we'll just come back later. After half an hour or so, we did go back, only to find that the light at the nurse's office was off. I remember us being pretty pissed off at the thought that maybe the shift nurse had gone home, but we checked the door anyway to see if maybe there would be a sign or note with the nurse's schedule or whatever. I don't know why I did it, but I tried the door handle despite being aware there was no light on, and I was able to open the door to find that there was no nurse's office, despite the sign above the door saying that that's where it was supposed to be. And yes, that was the only sign. We checked over and over to make sure it was the right room. We were sure it was the same room we visited earlier.
What? How?
Instead of a decked out clinic, we found a room with a small nightlight in an exposed socket that cast only enough light for us to see the walls and floors were concrete. There were no finishes.
Bloody
no beds,
hell.
no cabinets, nothing. It's like we dreamed up the clinic we saw earlier. A guard approached us at that point, asking what we were doing poking around in an unfinished clinic. So we told him what happened, and he of course thought we were making it up. While we were kind of trying to convince him that we weren't lying, we all suddenly stopped talking. When we felt the temperature just drop, we shivered, our hair stood on end. My heart started racing, and nobody could speak for a minute. Finally, my teammate burst into hysterical tears, and the guard then nervously shooed us away and locked the door to the supposed nurse's office. We were escorted back to our team's bay, and we explained what happened to our team leader. He pretty much just sat there stunned as he listened to us. Since my teammate wouldn't stop crying and was starting to hyperventilate very badly, they had to send her to Makati Med. The incident was never brought up again.
Wow. Just brilliant.
If you're a fan of horror, which I know you are, then you'll love Shudder, which is a video streaming
No, let's move on. Okay, probably the last story of the stream.
We are sorry. The number you have dialed has been...
You shut your ass off.
2015, student Michael Andrews of the University of Southern California had left his dorm room with his roommate Steve to go to a frat party off campus. On the way to the party, Steve had realized he left his phone in the dorm room, but already in the Uber to the party, they didn't bother going back to the dorm. At some point during the party, while the two friends had separated to mingle with other friends and acquaintances, Michael's phone began to ring. It was from Steve's number. He picked up and heard Steve's voice on the other end, covered by a mask of static. Even in the loud party, he could distinguish the voice of his roommate saying, "Come back to the room."
No.
The call ended. With that, Michael left the party and Ubered back to the campus dorms, trying to call Steve back and text him, but he wasn't getting any responses. When Michael got back to the dorm room, he didn't find Steve inside. Strangely, he did find Steve's phone sitting on his bed. Upon checking the notifications on the screen, Michael saw the notifications of all his texts and calls on the screen. It wasn't until an hour later that Steve returned to the room looking for Michael after hearing that he left. And this was when he told Michael that he never called him and that he never had his phone. What made this even stranger was that Steve's phone had no record of making a call to Michael.
Damn.
Michael's phone had a record of receiving a call and having a 15-second conversation. The phone company wasn't able to trace a call from Steve inside, and nobody was found hiding in their dorm room or anything like that. In 1970, 25-year-old Donna Lass worked as a nurse at the first aid station of a casino in South Lake Tahoe, California. One day, Donna's boss and landlord both received calls from an unidentified man who claimed she was dealing with an illness in the family and would be out of town for a while. Donna's boss became suspicious, so he contacted her mother, who confirmed that story was a lie. Donna's car was found parked outside her apartment, but there was no trace of her anywhere. The last sign of her was an entry she'd made in her logbook near the end of her final shift. The entry looked unfinished, as if someone had possibly interrupted her. No one could figure out Donna's whereabouts or the identity of the caller until the San Francisco Chronicle received a mysterious postcard 6 months later. The postcard was the latest in a long line of cryptic messages from the Zodiac Killer. The killer made no direct reference to Donna, but hinted that he had murdered and buried his 12th victim in Lake Tahoe. It didn't take a detective to make the connection between this note and Donna's disappearance. The postcard provided a lot of possible clues regarding Donna's whereabouts, but a search of the area turned up nothing. Something complicates a connection between the Zodiac Killer and Donna, though, and that's the fact that the Zodiac Killer was not known for hiding bodies. So if he wasn't responsible, the whereabouts of Donna's body and who tried to hide her disappearance remain a mystery.
Oh, brilliant.
In 2008, 19-year-old college student
Oh,
Brendan
why does the
Swanson
Hoover have to go
was
off now?
driving home after a night out when he crashed into a ditch on a gravel road in the middle of nowhere in Minnesota. Knowing how dangerous of a predicament he found himself in, and probably aware he was in a cliche horror movie setup, he called his parents and asked for a ride. However, his parents had trouble finding him, and when arriving to the location he provided, they couldn't find his car. So they got back on the phone for over 45 minutes trying to find him as he described his location. Swanson claimed he could see lights from a nearby town and was heading in that direction, but things took a turn for the worse when he suddenly yelled, "Oh shit." Before his father could even scold his son for using that language on the phone with him, the call cut off, and that's the last anyone ever heard from Brendan. Even with hundreds of volunteers and 30 dogs searching, only his car was found. So what happened to him? What did he see that made him go, "Oh shit," before abruptly hanging up? A few years back, a Reddit user named Stacy Kolupski shared the experience of her brother who would get a call on his cell phone around 2 to 3 a.m. every night. He would answer it every time to hear this hellish sounding noise that he described as a static mixed with screams. He changed his cell phone number after a month of this and it stopped. Then after a week or so, it began again, with the exact same noise at the exact same time. Finally, one day he decided to backdial the call, and an old man picked up who had no idea what he was talking about. If he didn't answer, it would call a few more times, but no messages were ever left. He decided to say screw it and ended his contract with his phone company, switched to a new one, and then got another new number. And exactly what he feared had happened. The screaming static calls continued after a short delay.
Oh,
By
brilliant.
this time he was terrified every night. Unsure why this was happening, he backdialed the number again and got a different person, who also had no idea what he was talking about. Around this time, Stacy's brother lost his job and his phone, which was now disconnected, meaning the calls of course stopped. One day, Stacy's mom asked her to listen to a weird message she got on her home phone. It was the static screaming. They showed her brother, and he of course freaked out. He backdialed the number again, and it said the number was disconnected this time. They never heard from it again after that.
Damn, that's a bit
In
weird.
the 1970s, Bashir Kaushaki opened a successful restaurant in Washington, D.C., and for over a decade enjoyed nothing but success. But in 1983, he became the target of a non-stop stream of threatening phone calls that came several times a day, every day. Usually harassment similar to this will eventually stop on its own as the harassers get bored and move on to something else. But Kaushaki was harassed by these phone calls for nearly a decade. The caller would eventually be nicknamed L'Enfant, which is French for the child. The nickname was presumed to reference the caller's eventual imitation of a little girl. Anyone associated with Kaushaki in any way was a target, from his pregnant spouse to his restaurant employees. The harassment was one day elevated from simply phone calls to physical harassment when the Star of David was scratched all over Kaushaki's Mercedes. When he traveled to Philadelphia to visit his sister, things got so bad that he suffered a mental breakdown and committed himself to a psychiatric ward. But even still, the calls continued to his restaurant. The FBI eventually placed a trace on the phone to confirm whether L'Enfant was a delusion or not, and what they found out put how bad this was into perspective. The calls were coming from different payphones at such a high frequency that it would have been impossible for only one person to have been making these calls.
Oh,
L'Enfant
no.
callers was a plot orchestrated by multiple people for the express purpose of harassing Kaushaki to insanity, but it was never figured out what the motive was. All the way back in 1931, there was a man named William Wallace who worked as a London insurance agent and had an obsession for playing chess in his free time. One night, Wallace showed up for a chess club meeting and found a telephone message waiting for him. The sender wanted to meet at 7:30 the following night so he could purchase an insurance policy. The next night, Wallace traveled across town and discovered that the address provided didn't exist. So he headed back home, most likely convinced that he was the victim of some dumb prank. But when he got home, he found his wife Julia's body had been beaten to death in the living room.
Oh,
The mysterious
Jesus.
caller was the obvious suspect, but after an investigation, police determined that the caller was actually William Wallace himself. Authorities argued that Wallace had left the message to fabricate an alibi. He killed his wife, hopped in a streetcar, drove around for an hour, then went home to supposedly discover his wife's body. This argument was invalid, as it was completely impossible for Wallace to have committed the murder, given he wouldn't have been able to return quick enough. The jury found Wallace guilty of the murder anyway, but luckily the Court of Criminal Appeal immediately overturned the conviction. The killer was never identified, but the prime suspect was a former employee of Wallace's insurance firm, who allegedly asked his wife to provide him a fake alibi and was seen wearing bloody gloves and hosing down his car on the night of the murder. Jason Alexander would frequently get calls to his house for a woman named Tanya. It didn't seem like a big deal since Tanya had the same last name as Jason's family, and it was a common name from where they were from. When Jason and his family moved across the city, and phone books gradually stopped being the go-to way of finding somebody's number, the calls for Tanya gradually stopped, and after a while, the Alexander family forgot about the Tanya woman. It was about 4 years later that she popped up in their lives again. Jason was driving home from work one afternoon and was greeted by a pretty grisly car wreck at the turn to his house. 2 cars had collided, and one had wrapped itself around the signage pole that had the house numbers and directions on it, one of which was his house number. Several
Yo.
days later, he got a call from the police. They asked if Tanya was at his residence. Her car was found wrapped around a pole down the street from Jason's house, and she was nowhere to be found at the accident site. He had never heard anything about her ever again.
Yo.
In 1965, the young woman you're looking at, named Judith Hyams, disappeared from her hometown of Coral Gables, Florida. Everyone feared the worst when her abandoned car was found in Atlanta with blood in the backseat. Judith was pregnant and recently went through a divorce. She allegedly made arrangements to get an illegal abortion from a Hungarian doctor named George Hadu. He was charged with conspiring to perform the abortion, but skipped bail and fled the country. After this, the case was forgotten for a quarter century, until it was rejuvenated by a series of bizarre phone calls. In 1990, the Coral Gables police captain Chuck Smith received a message from an Omaha, Nebraska radio host claiming he had information about Judith's disappearance. Smith called the host back, but the host was completely confused. The host said he never made the call, and he knew nothing at all about Judith. Smith soon received another anonymous call claiming Judith was alive in Omaha. Smith knew nothing about the case, but he had recently traveled to Omaha to deliver a lecture at a police academy, and he started to wonder if this was a prank. Smith got a third anonymous call from someone who claimed to be an FBI informant who had recently spent time with Dr. Hadu in Hungary. They even provided an old phone number for Hadu that checked out. Smith was confused, and with such a baffling case, he took the story to the TV show Unsolved Mysteries. Days after the Judith Hyams episode was broadcast, Smith got an anonymous letter confirming what many people suspected all along. Judith died during an illegal abortion and wound up in a watery grave. While that's the logical solution, it doesn't account for all the strange calls. The callers and writer have not been identified, the doctor has not been found, and Judith's body was never recovered.
Of course it hasn't. Right, I think that's the end of this stream here. Jesus Christ, what a good stream this has been. But yeah, just turn this off. There you go. So yeah, that's going to be the. Let me just put this back without knocking it over. There you go. Yeah, that's going to be the end of today's stream here. I hope you have enjoyed it. This stream's been very fun to do. Yeah, I know this has been a bit of a longer stream than usual, but you know, I want to do something different in it. So yeah, please like, subscribe, turn notifications, see when the next episode comes out. Yeah, I'm not going to waste any more of your time. I'm just going to end it off here. So yeah, I hope you have enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.